Well, I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Destin City Council, June 20th, 2022 to order. Up first, Pastor Steve, are you here? Oh, yep. Lead us in a prayer.
Father, we just come before you thanking you for this great nation. We thank you, Lord, for this city that you've allowed us to live in. Lord, we thank you for these who volunteer to serve. And Lord, I just pray that you will give them guidance and wisdom in all that they do. Lord, I thank you for protecting us from the storms. And Lord, you have been blessed over the years. And we just want to say thank you for that. Lord, we just pray now as this meeting goes on that we'll look to you and all that we do. In Jesus' name, amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Up first is the agenda approval. Is there any changes to the agenda as written? If not, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
So moved.
Second.
Got a second? Get my little deal out here. Keep pressing your buttons. It's slow tonight. Ayes have it, so moved. Up first, we have proclamation of Parks and Recreation Month, and I'll come up forward, and if the Parks and Recreation Department and Ms. Firth, would you like to come up? I'll go ahead and read this thing. All righty then. Does anybody want to say something that's real good? Okay, we'll let Sandy say something. We're not doing it. All right. City of Destin Proclamation, Parks and Recreation Month. And I'll try not to stumble over my whereases too much. Whereas parks and recreation programs are an integral part of communities throughout this country, including the city of Destin, and whereas our parks and recreation are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of life in our communities, ensuring the health of all citizens, and contributing to the economic and environmental well-being of a community and region, and whereas parks and recreation programs build healthy, active communities that aid in the prevention of chronic disease, provide therapeutic recreation services for those who are mentally or physically disabled, and improve the mental and emotional health of all our citizens. And whereas parks and recreation programs increase a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas parks and recreational areas are fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community, and whereas parks and natural recreational areas improve water quality, they protect our groundwater, prevent flooding, improve the quality of the air we breathe, providing vegetative buffers to development, and produce habitat for wildlife. We have plenty of it right here in the city of Destin. Keep your cats inside. Whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July 22nd as Parks and Recreational Month, and whereas the City of Destin recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreational resources, now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Mayor Gary Jarvis, on behalf of the Destin City Council, do hereby designate the month of July 2023 as Parks and Recreational Month in the City of Destin. We call upon Parks and Recreation supporters to join us in recognizing the importance of our nation's parks and recreation. Sandy?
Thank you.
Everybody in here?
Yeah.
Yep. Scooch it in.
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. We got one more.
Go ahead, Sandy.
It's certainly a pleasure to be part of this hard-working group, and our goals are to make Destin Parks better in the future. So if you have any suggestions, we'd love to have you at our monthly meetings. So y'all come and join us.
Thank you, Sandy. All right, up next is item 1B, request to build a high school baseball park at Morgan Sports Complex. Christine Crickshank, our president of Destin High School, is going to come up here, I guess, and give us a presentation, or is it you, Coach? I guess Coach got the dirty deed. Go ahead, sir.
There we go. Thank you, Mayor Jarvis and City Council for having us here again tonight. On behalf of our Destin High School Board, Executive Board, and Christine Cruikshank, our principal, I'm Phil Dorn. I'm the Athletic Director of Destin High School, and we would like to talk with you a little bit tonight about the opportunity to possibly work in a team effort to start a project to provide a baseball field, possibly at Morgan Park. And I guess our timing's good because we just got invited to go to a Parks and Recreation meeting. What's the suggestion? Right? So here we go. But the first one, if hopefully I'll hit this right, that we want to get started with is we started 22 sports this year at Destin High School, and one of the rough patches of our first year was having a compliant high school baseball park. Currently, there is not a compliant high school baseball park in the city of Destin. The closest thing we have is at the Destin Elementary School, and through the efforts of Lisa Firth and Ryan Reed, an effort was made to make that park playable for games and practices. We worked together on that for several months trying to get things to work out. As you can see in the handout, that became very expensive. To redo the lighting for safety was $10,000. To redo the backstop fence and make it safe was $15,000. Repairing the third base line, or first base line rather, was $8,500, and that doesn't even include the efforts that the city put in to redo the infield and make it playable for practice and spruce up the outfield, which the city did do as a step towards trying to help us out. We did do some on our part. We did purchase those nets to help protect the elementary school portables, if you will, back there. So we were trying to work together with the city, both of us together, to make it a compliant park. In knowing that we needed more opportunity or monies, if you will, to resources to try to make that park a compliant baseball park, we went back to our parents at Destin High School and asked them for their input about how we could possibly get more resources to get the elementary school up to date. And it was their belief that because we had knowledge from Marcus Chambers, our Okaloosa County School Board Superintendent, that the Destin Elementary School baseball field will be torn up in 3 to 5 years, and there will be an addition built onto that elementary school. And Mr. Chambers was pretty forthright with us to let us know that, of course, any efforts we put into that and make it an invested park, we would lose that in 3 to 5 years. So in the best interest, our parents believe that we should invest that money in a facility that will last longer, be something our community can use over a longer period of time. And if we're going to raise resources for this type of thing, then we want it to last. And so, that was frugal, and we thought a wise choice. And now we're at the next step, which is trying to figure out where do we go and how do we do this. So we have reached out to some help, and I probably went a little too far there, so I'll go back. And what we're talking about is the possibility of renovating one of the softball fields at Morgan Park. And we do understand that this would have to be a joint effort agreed upon and helped pushed forward by the City Parks and Recreation. But we believe this could benefit and have many mutual benefits for both the City of Destin, Parks and Recreation, and Destin High School. But we are looking at the northeast field, and as it presents itself towards the northeast direction of Morgan Sports Center, and what we have looked into through Jack Baker, architect with DAG Architects Incorporated, Jack has given his rendition of how one of those fields might be renovated and what we could do there to make it a compliant park. When you look at the National Federation of High Schools requirements for a compliant park for competition and practice, that's on your last page in the handout. We have to have foul poles 300 feet from home base, and the senior softball parks provide that distance. We do not have to necessarily move the center field fence to be compliant unless we're building a brand new park, and then there are recommendations for the distance to center field. So what Jack has come up with for a compliant park is to increase the height of the fence of the softball field to 20 feet, rebuild the infield into a compliant baseball infield, which means you would increase the base pass to 90 feet and put in grass, and then we could play right there on that field as a compliant high school baseball park. It would give the city of Destin its first baseball park, if you will, for competition and practice for high school, and give us an opportunity to host home games. Our baseball team logged 2,537 miles this spring, playing 25 games away, not having a home game for their team members to play and to represent our school and our community. So we feel it's time, if we could, to work together with the city, work together with Parks and Recreation, and find a way to possibly bring us a home field for practice and games that everybody could benefit from. Yes, sir.
Everybody seems to have a handout except us. Could we get the handout
Yes.
too?
We sent those out today by email, and I apologize for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes,
now I
yeah, no, there you go. Yeah,
couldn't
you're welcome.
read. I'm
Thank
too
you.
old.
And I apologize for that, not having that
I'm
earlier.
not afraid to ask.
We did email those out, so your email will be plugged up with some of those when you get back. But yes, as you look at that rendition that Mr. Baker did for you, that areas in red would be the improvements to those fields. We did get estimated costs from outside groups. We're looking at $20,000 to $22,000 to build the infield if it's done with Tifway Bermuda grass. We're possibly looking at estimated costs of $30 per running foot to put that fence in. So those would be some of the costs that we would have to incur to do this. And basically, those are kind of blown up estimates, if you will, because those are outside companies that would come into Destin to do this. Some of this work could be done locally, and obviously, with more bidding in the process. But we do believe it would give an opportunity for a difference in programming for the Parks and Recreation that could have a high school compliant park on Morgan Sports Center, which would allow them to bring in high school baseball tournaments. Also, the benefit would be that, you could host camps and clinics, Major League Baseball, Perfect Game, those types of organizations are always looking for opportunities to go into communities and provide clinics and camps and tryouts. So there would be things there that would change the programming a little bit, at least for one field at Parks and Recreation. The other fields, of course, would still be softball compliant. But this would be an opportunity that we could, work together with the city, provide a home field for our baseball team, and bring these other high school towns and teams to Destin to play, which would also help our restaurant and hotel and beach industry, if you will, tourism as well, in those respects. So we think it would add to the Morgan Sports Center, not take away from it. We think it would probably help give us more offerings, and at the same time do a lot for a lot of great kids who represented their high school this year on a lot of long bus trips and a lot of nights having to play away. So we'd like to be able to be considered in that way. If you, again, just look at the last page, is nothing more than just the diagram of numbers that help to build this park, and then like I said, the Lien rendition is the second to last page as well. Any questions that I could answer?
Council members? Anything else? Go ahead.
I'll kick it off. Thank you, Coach Dorn, for coming, and all the guests. It's nice to have a room full of folks in here every once in a while, so thank you. I think it comes at a perfect time that we just did a proclamation for the Parks and Recreation Month, and we're talking about a park that we have in the city of Destin. That has the ability to make some changes and updates, so I think it's a perfect time. It's also a perfect time, I think, because we're at a stage right now in our capital budget plan and doing things with our budget for the city for this coming year as well. So, money-wise, that's there. I am a huge proponent of trying to build and improve our recreational facilities for our kids, families, future kids, and everything. I mean, I played at that park. I played as a younger adult, softball, did it all. So, and it's 20-something years old, and I think it needs some work. And I actually have something at the end of the meeting that I'll be talking about as well. So, again, it's just perfect timing, I think. But I also think that it's very important that as a city, that we try to do whatever we can for the city's high school, Destin High School. I mean, it's a no-brainer that we don't have a partnership, which I know we already do, and we work together a lot, but I think it's vitally important that we continue that and to continue figuring out ways to work together to support the high school. We talk about the gyms. We need a new gym, and y'all need gyms and all that stuff. I know that there's big ideas and goals and dreams that we all have about different things like that. And, the biggest issue we always talk about in Destin is there's no space. But what we do have right now are 6 baseball fields at Morgan's Complex, 2 little ones, 4 big ones. And we have the ability to take one of them and possibly change it to make it a compliant high school field, not only for you guys, but for the traveling teams and everybody else that you mentioned. So I'm all about trying to figure out a way to do this together as well, which I think is the key of moving forward and continuing our good relationship. So I'm going to do whatever I can to help support that. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Now, and I do want to say, too, I did make a point in the handout that at Destin High School, we have a philosophy of leaving places better than we found them. So we are fully committed to any kind of manpower or maintenance or shared care of a facility like this that we could, assist the city with. And we would fully expect that we would take care of that facility day to day as we used it and make sure it stayed up to compliant levels.
Mr. Dorn, I got a question for you. Now, to build this park, to make it Florida high school regulation field, can it be designed to where it can be used multi-use? Because, your baseball season is X amount of days, and, we use these fields year-round. There's men's and women's softball and kids, tournaments, all that kind of stuff. Is it easy adaptable to, say, like middle school base paths or even Little League at certain points? Or once we commit to a high school regulation field, that's all we got? I know Jet Stadium, back before Fort Walton Beach had their own baseball, we went there and we shared it with everybody, the middle schools and the Little League and all that kind of stuff. So is that a possibility too, that I'm not too worried about the expenditures, because the one that may only last 3 years you're talking the same money, both facilities. So that's kind of a wash, as far as cost expectations. But I want to know if we do this, are we just kind of taking a whole field set aside where it can't be used for anything else?
I think you can make it to be flexible that way. I think you can design it that way. It's going to take some efforts with maintenance and care and adjustment and allowable time, when you're switching gears from a high school baseball season to possibly using it again for softball. The basic thing with the high school baseball infield is the infield itself, the grass infield. Right. When you switch back to softball, they'd probably want to be clay. So we'd have to look into something with the city that way.
I think we could keep the grass, because I'm thinking using it for other baseball age groups is what I was.
Yes, you can definitely do that. Yeah, the base paths can be shortened, no question.
And what time frame would we really need to have this field, if it's built, committed to the high school for your spring practices right on through? What are you looking at?
Right. The first allowable practice for baseball is around the 24th, 25th of January for 2022, or 2023. So you're looking right now approximately 6 months that, we could work on it and have it ready for the first day of practice.
And you're looking at January, and usually state baseball tournament is early May?
Through the first week of May, correct?
Okay, I just kind of wanted to bring that out, just so y'all had I've been through the high school aspect of it. Go ahead.
Coach Dorn, thanks for being here. I just wanted to say, I echo what Kevin has to say. I love baseball. I was born and raised on it. We listened to games out of St. Louis on the AM station when I was a kid. I love baseball. I always have. My mother watches 162 games a year, so I understand it is paramount to have a field for your high school, your local high school in town. My understanding is that there's some complications with Morgan's. I would like to see it work. I would like to see it happen there. You have my support in that. That's the main thing I wanted to say. But I played baseball at Destin Middle School, and the first 2 years we had a clay infield, and I played third base. So that was, for those of you who played third base, that's no fun. But I think it's awesome. Thank you all for coming. Like Kevin said, it's nice to see some folks here. So that's all I got. Thanks.
Mr. Destin.
Thank you, Mayor, and I appreciate you coming also, and I join with the rest of the council trying to find a solution to this. However, I'd point out to you that the city doesn't own Morgan Field either. We lease that. Do I believe it's going to be yanked away at any moment? No, but it could if the more users have to have it. The other point that I would make is, having just left the school board, I got to look at the plans. Did superintendent show you the plans?
He didn't show me the plans, but he did tell me the timeline.
Yes, and the plans actually that I saw still left quite a bit of room on those playing fields. And the timeline is what I would call ambitious. I think it's more like 5 to 6, 7 years. I hope they build it, I really do, because it was part of the deal when we passed the half cent. But as far as moving forward, I'm not sure. What I would like to see us do, and ask staff to do, is to work with you guys to find a place where we can actually acquire a property and have a dedicated baseball field and facility for y'all. We've talked about the town center. We've been negotiating, talking with the people that are over near where the Pottery Barn are. I know that we are looking at some other property very close to Morgan that we may be able to get acquire here fairly soon. I'd like to see us build a field that belongs to us and you, and dedicate it to what it needs to be. Because if we try to shoehole it into Morgan, I'm afraid that we're going to impact the things that we're doing there now. We just have gone through a very large and productive softball tournament. And if we take a field away, I'm not sure we can even have those tournaments there. So, I'm 100% behind. Let's go find some place where we can build a real facility for the school. And I would also like to see us work with the school board to do that, because after all, you are part of the public school system. And at a certain point, very soon, they're obliged to give you construction money also. I think it's 3 years, 5 years, whatever the number is. They're obliged to give you so much money for those facilities also, since you are a part of the public school system. And I think the three of us can get together and find something that would be more permanent and more designed and in particular for y'all. So on that light, I'd like to make a motion directing staff to work with your group to see what we can do to acquire a permanent home for your stadium and baseball program.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. I had a couple people that wanted to speak prior to it, but seeing I'll just continue on. We'll just continue on now. Mr. Braden, you're up next.
Thank you. I just want to share my thoughts with you, and I really don't want it taken out of context or the wrong way. But first thing is that the Destin High School, which I'm 100% in favor for, is not in the city of Destin. And we want to have a partnership, but the city of Destin cannot start funding tens of thousands of dollars to the high school, the middle school, and elementary school for projects that come up. The Threadgill Little League Park comes to mind. That's for our kids in T-ball, the city of Destin, and those poor parents, they get the property for next to nothing, I believe. But other than that, they're on their own. We give them the bare minimum, and that's our own people. And I think I'm gonna have a hard time with it, with the taxpayers of Destin blowing my phone up, giving a field away. And I want to work, and like Mr. Destin said, and the mayor said, find something, you know. It's just gonna be difficult. I mean, I'm all for helping the high school. I'm all for giving them a place to practice, you know, whatever we can do, but just to donate a whole field, you know, it's gonna be tough. I don't know that we can do that. I'd be more than happy to be on board, like Mr. Destin said, to find some money or help fund, you know, get some money, to donate some money for land or to build a field or something somewhere. But first thing I'd like to see is the Destin High School annex into the city. Would be my first thing I'd like to see. But like I said, it's just things that's running through my head that I'm all for it, but I just don't want the lashback from the taxpayers, you know. I don't want the elementary school or the middle school to be coming up here next, you know, wanting the same thing. So I think we all got to be real careful of what we're doing. But with that said, I'm behind you 100%. I'm a softie for when it comes to school. The kids, that's the only thing I donate to, other than Girl Scout cookies. But all the other people that call my phone, I don't donate to anything. But when it comes to school and the kids, that's where my heart's at. So I think we need to, like the motion, I'm all for it. Let's get together and find out what we can do and make it happen somewhere, somehow.
Mr.
Thank you,
Bagby?
Mayor.
Are you, Rodney, you good? Okay, Mr. Bagby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is what I like about the council. We all agree that we love the high school, we support the high school, we want the high school, we, you know, want it to be in the city limits, but we all will do whatever we have to do to help the high school. But everybody kind of comes at it from a different perspective. So my perspective that I come at is as a fiduciary responsibility to the citizens of Destin. Is how I approach almost every problem in this city. And so when you tell me it's $30 per running foot, I need to know exactly how many running feet that fence is going to be. I need to know exactly what you're asking us to spend. The other thing, to Mr. Destin's point, I believe it is 3 years, and you're probably not the person, you're probably the best coach in this room, but you're probably not the finance guy, that person I need to talk to. If they're here, I'll talk to them. But, you know, you have the required local effort, right, that we pay school taxes to. And then we have the capital improvement millage that we pay to the school district to build you, and I believe it is 3 years, because I believe the statute required these charter schools to show viability before taxpayers were required to invest in their capital improvement. So, but 1 year's gone. And so I guess my question for you or Christine or your finance committee or person or whatever is, did you have the conversation with Mr. Chambers, Superintendent Chambers, or his staff about when you could expect capital improvement money to be coming your way and exactly how much? Because you should be getting the FTE money, right?
Yes, we
Okay.
do receive that.
Okay. So, and is that at the beginning of their fiscal year, So which fiscal years are you going to, when will you see the first dollar? What restrictions, if any, does the state or the county school board or whoever put on spending of that money? What is your priority, your Destin High School's priority for spending capital improvement? I'm sure y'all have got a capital improvement plan that your board or that committee of people that I was honored to meet when y'all opened up, has said, this is our number one priority, this is our number two priority, this is our number three. And so where are the facilities, the sports facilities on that? How much is for a ball field? Because I do think it should be a partnership. I'm not saying we shouldn't be a partner. I think we should be a partner. But I also think, as Mr. Destin pointed out, the school board should be a big partner in this, or the school district should be a big partner in this. And I don't have a sense of, because they got the money. I mean, I pulled up my tax payment from last year, and I paid like, $570 to Destin, and I paid like $2,100 to Okaloosa County School District. So I'm like, I want to see that 800-pound gorilla in a room while we're all sitting down talking. But those are the types of questions, and I'd be glad to meet with Christine or with whoever your finance people are, and I'll help. I mean, I know Superintendent Chambers, and I would say, hey, look, you got 2 years. What's your plan, Mr. Superintendent, to distribute funds to the city of Destin besides the elementary school or the middle school? So that's just where I am, but I think we're all in violent agreement that we want to help. We all have different questions, maybe. Thank you.
All right, Jim, Teresa?
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for being here, Coach. And, I've 150% support. In a perfect world, with CRA, we move down to where, the old pottery is, and flatten this, and we make this your field right here. But that's not going to happen in 2 to 3 years, but that would be the perfect plan. I agree with what Mr. Destin said, and of course, Mr. Bagby said, we need to come together and find the right place, get the right monies, and help this team get built to where they have, in the city of Destin, a baseball field. So I'm on board 100%, do whatever we can to make it happen, okay?
Schmidt?
Thank you. A couple of things, if I could, and Lisa or anybody else can correct me if I'm wrong, but just, Mr. Destin, the tournament that's going on right now, I don't think they're using all 4 of these softball fields, and it has no implications. I don't think changing one field will have a major implication on our summer tournaments that we have.
Yeah, summer tournaments use all 6 fields.
All 6 fields?
Yes,
And would
sir.
they still be able to use it would they still be able to use it in the summer if we make adjustments?
Would
temporary fences
the
and
tournament
stuff
be
like
able
that?
to use it? Yes, as long as the baseball team wasn't on it.
Right, as long as the baseball team's not there. So we could work with the school to still use that field for the summer tournaments possibly. Okay. I also, and correct me if I'm wrong, Coach Dorn, but I don't think you're here asking us for $50,000 to build you guys a compliant stadium.
Correct.
You came here asking to work with us to hopefully use that field. I think you started by saying your parents were fundraising and already trying to figure out where to put y'all's funds. So I don't think you're asking us to fund this entire thing, which is good to know. But I also know, talking with staff and other people, that we have a budget item for renewal and replacement in this year's budget to do some of the things like turf or maybe fencing. So there's already a plan to use some money, maybe, if it gets approved, obviously, in our budget, to do some repairs and renovations at Morgan's in general, not just this one field. So we're already paying for some things possibly if we approve the budget. So I think trying to have us and y'all and the school board find a property for y'all to go long-term is not, it's just kicking the can down the road. sure, it'd be great to go build a brand-new facility on the Destin Elementary property where that field is and the upper high, I mean, that'd be great, sure, but we have fields right here that aren't really used to their full capacity, in my opinion, by baseball. I mean, yes, kids play soccer in the outfield, and I get that. And they still could, I'm assuming, when we communicate with each other. But we have the field right now, and putting a little bit of improvements, or letting y'all do some improvements, would allow you to use it this upcoming season. So I'd like to make a substitute motion if I could. And I'd like to direct staff, city manager, to work with the school and Crystal and Lisa and our department to find a way with our current budget plan and their fundraising efforts, how we can make it happen at Morgan's Park this coming year.
I'll second.
I got a substitute motion and a second. Normally, we'll press on and go to a vote, but it's a substitute motion, so we can go all the way through it again if we need. Go ahead, Mr. Destin.
I'd make one comment, and I understand the rush to try to get something that they can use. If we're going to do that, I'd rather do it over at the elementary school. That'll be our bridge, 3 to 5 years, to give us an opportunity to get a permanent solution for them. We can use that field right now, and as I say, I was in on the preliminary drawings and from Jacob Titan on what was going to go on over there, and there was still room. And that's not going to happen real soon. So if we can get 3 to 5 years, and without changing what's going on out there, I'd rather spend the money on that. Meanwhile, we're seriously looking for a permanent solution for them. So I'd be opposed to the substitute, but I would include language in my motion to direct the staff to see exactly what it would cost to do that field over at the elementary school as a bridge to a more permanent solution.
Okay, well, we got a substitute motion, so we're going to deal with that, and then we can always go back. All right? And so I got a couple other folks that'd like to speak to this motion. First up, city manager. Go ahead, Lance.
Thank you, sir. Mine's just clarification on the motion. It said funding for this year, and we're in the midst of budgeting for fiscal '23, so I just want to make sure we're talking about the fiscal '23 budget. Is that what we're talking about? We've already budgeted, I mean, this year's budget is, so I just want to make sure I'm understanding right. 23, okay.
Just real quick, I love and I think it seems like to me, the high school's right there. This would be an ideal place to have a baseball field. You could have your players run here as a warm up. They'd hate it, but you could do it. I think I would probably agree with Mr. Destin in we've already it's not ideal. It's not the best thing. Maybe not the best thing in your eyes, in everyone's eyes. But I think we've already, you guys, the school board, whoever has already poured money into those fields over there. Would it be possible to make that work? I mean, it's not the most ideal thing, but it seems like that's a pretty good solution in working together to get you guys a baseball field here in town so you can play some home games here and everybody around can come and support and watch. And so I would have to agree with Mr. Destin. So.
Go ahead, Kevin. I know you want to.
Would you put a $30,000 roof on your house knowing you're going to destroy it in 3 to 5 years? I mean, that's what we're going to ask. That's what the school board's going to ask them to do is put lights and $40,000. And it could take 7 to 10 years, like Mr. Destin said, or it could take 3 to 5 years, like the superintendent said, who's doing that right now. But it's just, it's just a question you got to ask yourself, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I understand. I think but this isn't. All right, so we're going to either go here permanently. Maybe. That's the kind of thing. It's like I understand what everybody else is saying is we can we can find something where it's permanent, it's yours. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I understand the roof thing, but I mean, we all put roofs on our houses around here knowing they could get taken away, right? I mean, but, yeah, I understand, I hear what you're saying.
Mr. Bagby?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I will oppose the substitute motion, not because I don't want you to have a good ball field, but I could probably generate 100 questions on both these proposals. The problem is I'm not willing to spend $30,000 or whatever it's going to cost tonight or this month or this week. And until I get my questions answered, Mr. Destin's motion offers me the best chance of sitting down with somebody from a financial perspective and with Crystal and the city manager and getting answers to my questions. They're answerable. There's just nobody up here can answer them, and probably nobody in this room can answer them. So if we have a good solution, we don't need a perfect solution, but we might get a better solution 3 years down the road. And so that's, the old saying, good, faster, cheap, pick two. I always pick good. I always pick good. Fast or cheap, I'm probably going to go with, let's not spend the least amount right now.
We got a motion on the thing, and...
Mr. Mayor, it's not clear to me who seconded the,
Yes, sir, I'm going to withdraw my
Ronnie King
motion.
did.
I'm going to withdraw my motion.
Oh, thank you,
There's no-
because I'd like to
there's
get
not
this
enough support,
done
unfortunately.
in the month of June. So, Rodney,
And the
You're
the
good.
tax-paying citizens are inside this room tonight.
that's
so.
correct. But I was just going to take a vote on that motion, so we can see if we go back to, you're going with the, okay, you've withdrawn the motion. So, Mr. Destin's original motion, but you made a change to that. Would you like to reiterate that for Ray again, please?
The change is that we direct staff to look at the solution over at the Destin Elementary School to see if we can go forward with that to address their present problem.
Okay. All right, Mr. Braden, do you want to add any comments? Go ahead, and then we'll take this thing to a vote.
The only question I have is the budget for 23, or the fiscal year 22, which is until October 1st, this coming October 1st. And we're fixing to work the budget for 2023 before October 1st. And y'all need a field when?
We would begin practice around January 25th.
So there's time if we somehow work it in the budget, but we're talking about trying to find something in the budget to do what?
I think we'll discuss that when we're doing our budget. I think his motion is to begin the process of working with staff to come up with some ideas so we can talk about it as a budgetary item, as well as a solution for the high school themselves. Of course, I like your idea of annexing the high school property. I think that's a good idea. There's some other properties we ought to annex too, but we'll talk about that at a later time. So we have a motion in a second.
Just for clarification, I thought he said he wanted the staff to bring us the numbers to finish fixing or whatever the elementary school.
But that's not part of the motion.
The motion is to ask for them to bring us back that as a possible solution.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's what we're voting on.
Okay.
All right? Let's just vote on this motion, and then you can always make another motion. Right? We have a motion, we have a second. Let's go ahead and take a vote, and we'll see where that goes. Ayes have it, so moved. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure you'll be back.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
we'll look forward to working with you guys. All righty then. No further motions? Good. We'll press on to 1C. Presentation, Little Adventures in Destin. Jennifer. She's not here. We won't assume you're the second team. We're going to assume that you're the first team.
Thank you so much.
Go ahead.
No, Jennifer was unable to make it tonight due to a conflict, but my name's Elise Tucson. I'm the Deputy Director of Marketing for Destin Fort Walton Beach Tourism, and I appreciate the opportunity tonight to present some of our Little Adventures in Destination campaign. You may know last year when we kicked off we allocated a portion of our marketing budget to impact our in-market tourists and try a little adventure while on vacation. So we did it with a lot of great successes. We did see our target market ancillary spend increase double digits. So this year we decided to build on that campaign and offer a bunch of new tactics. So we're continuing to offer golf cart rides throughout Crystal Beach area. We are giving away complimentary popsicles this year on Okaloosa Island. We're also installing window clings at Destin Commons, installing graphic crosswalks, parking lot lines, elevator takeovers, all tied back to the Little Adventures brand. We're also distributing Little Adventure maps that also send people to our different activities through the toll booth on Midway Bridge to get the tourists when they're coming in. And we have opt-in text messages for Little Adventures, and we have the opt-in text messages for the beach flag safety, which we've had great success on signing up. And all this is supported by a paid digital and social campaign. So with that, tonight, we'd like to request the approval to install and incorporate some of these tactics on City of Destin properties. So we have the crosswalks. We'd like to install, this is an example of what they look like, just kind of mocked up. We'd like to install this particular artwork at the shore of Crystal Beach across the entranceway into the parking lot. It would not go across the street, but it would go across the entranceway. It's a temporary decal. It is slip resistant and would be professionally removed beginning of August. So we also have the parking lot lines. And one thing I forgot to mention is all these tactics have dynamic trackable QR codes. So we'll be able to track down to the specific location of one of our tactics and how many people have responded to it. So for the parking lot lines, we'd also like to include 6, this is an example of them. We'd also like to include 6 of those lines that encompass 5 of the parking spots at Crystal Beach. And again, they're temporary and they would come up in the beginning of August. And this is a different, we decided not to do the water stencils, so I'm going to scoot by that. The presentation in your packet is more up to date, apologize. And then permanent signage. We are doing some wayfinding signs such as you see here, and we've already installed them throughout some of Okaloosa County, and we would like to install those at Osteen, June White Decker, Shara, Shore at Crystal Beach Park, and Pompano Access. So those would stay up year-round. If that's not agreeable, then we would just put them up for this short-term project. But those, again, have QR codes, and they talk about Little Adventures and directing people to that. So that is what we're here tonight to request.
All right. Would
At no cost. I'm not asking for any money.
in the QR codes, not only do they lead people to the information of what the Little Adventures are all about, but it also helps you track that data to see what type of visitor you're having and how this whole idea is working. You'll be able to have the definitive information that you need to decide whether this is worthwhile or not worthwhile and that kind of stuff, right?
Correct. And we also use some different services to track people's ancillary spends based on their Visa or American Express usage. You know, we're going to get people here for the bed tax dollars and such, but we want to really help out all our partners across the board. So we want people going to the restaurants. We want people going on the charter boats, on, you know, to the Gulf area and wherever. We just want them to try a little bit more than just the beach so that everybody benefits.
Go ahead, Teresa.
I'd like to make the motion that we approve this opportunity to spread the information through Little Adventures throughout our city and get this taken care of and installed as soon as possible.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Mr. Bagby, were you up? That was Bobby? Yeah, go ahead, Bobby, and then I got Kevin.
Awesome. Last weekend, I played tourist over at Beasley Park and did it all. I parked in one of these spots. I did the code, went up, got one of the popsicles, some swell pops and all that. So I thought it was awesome. They're very minimal. I don't think they're too obstructive. They're not tacky in any way. So I'm all for it. So just throwing my support out there.
Mr. Schmidt?
Thank you, appreciate it. Did I miss the map where you're going to want to put the crosswalks in?
And I apologize, we had updated our presentation, and that's what's included in the packet that was posted online. But we were looking for, here it is, Destin Jetty, Osteen, Public Beach Access, and it would say Snorkel the Jetty, and we're determining a spot there. June White Decker Park for surf fishing would be a 3-minute drive, and we were looking to put it.
I'm trying
Yeah.
to look for like the exact crosswalks that you're wanting to put stuff on the ground.
The crosswalk, we only had one,
Oh.
and that would be at the Crystal Beach, shores of Crystal Beach.
So the one on our little presentation, that's it right there. Oh, just right in that little.
Yeah, so
parking
it's on the sidewalk. They're
Okay,
not, it's
gotcha.
too dangerous, and it takes too long for them to actually go across the street,
Okay.
so we
And then
call
you
them
said that
crosswalks.
that crosswalk and the parking lines are removable?
Yes.
So they're not being painted down there or anything?
No, it's a vinyl decal. It's amazing what they can come up with, and it's permanent. We've had them up at Destin Commons now, probably going on about 2 weeks.
It's not permanent.
No, it's not permanent.
Okay.
But it's very durable to stay.
Gotcha. Okay.
And they
If you
can-
go to Commons, you can see them. They're on the circular area where the tree in the center is. They've got them there. They look like crosswalks, but they're more or
Yeah,
less
I'm very
like
familiar with what they look like.
That's-
I just wanted
and
to make
that's the-
sure that,
Yeah.
that we're getting the correct information here.
Yes.
Because I don't want stuff to be down there and then it gets torn and faded and old and then starts looking junky or anything,
We
so-
would remove it at the beginning of
Right.
August. If
Perfect.
there is anything in the meantime, we'll keep monitoring. We've got the outpost there, so obviously we're
Right.
there a lot. We'll monitor it, and if it's a problem, we'll go ahead and take it up early.
Sounds good. Thank you for the answers.
City Manager, Lance?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to throw out there that we're great partners with the TDC, and we intend on continuing that relationship. But I do want you all to know that this is the first that staff is really getting to look at this, and we do have our own wayfinding program that's in the works right now. So if you can delay voting on this until we can coordinate staff to make sure we're not stepping on each other's toes, that would be helpful to me. And I mean, if you had any other questions, I know Louis would chime in if he's still back there.
I think you said pretty much what I would have said too. We have worked well in the past, and we'd like to continue that, and so a little coordination on what we're seeing today will be helpful.
I just want to stress that we don't take too long. It's already the middle of June. They're going to pull it up the 1st of August. So if y'all are not going to do this within the next 24 to 48 hours, then I would say no, get it put down
We-
because it's very effective. I've seen
And
it. I've been a part of it.
I did meet with staff and representative of the park, Catherine, and Webb, and they're the ones that told us we need to bring it in front of the council. So we have met with staff, but we're glad to do whatever is needed for this.
Yeah, and this is not really wayfinding. This is totally different than the signage is not telling people to go, you're at this
Sure.
location or go to that location. This is a totally different deal.
Sure.
Correct? You understand?
No, I do understand, and I'm not at all trying to be adversarial because, like I said, I think we're good partners. But as the new code enforcement director, hopefully for less than 30 minutes until you approve the new one, I've learned lots of things, and I want to make sure that we are not going to vote to approve something that is not allowable in certain areas of the city. And I'm just asking for a chance for staff to review this. Did Ms. Firth review this? It's very possible, but she's not in our planning division, and I don't expect her to know the answers to those questions.
Would it be possible for us to get approval for the crosswalk and the parking lot lines, and then we could definitely meet with staff to discuss the wayfinding further, to see if that's something doable in the future?
Louis, since you're in charge of the planning department, I realize it sounds like with this happening, sort of, you may not have been in the loop on this. Can they do the parking lot, like as you enter the parking lot, putting that down, and then the lines in the parking lot, and then the rest of it, get with you to find out if it's authorized in the city?
My view would be, would like to see the entire package. And wherever money is involved, we can do this in 48 hours. That's not a big deal. I just want to make sure that everything is consistent with what we're doing. As a matter of fact, they have another package that we've been working with them, and we're ready to talk to them. I know my staff in the planning department has not seen any of this, and we are responsible for those areas.
Can you maybe make an adjustment contingent upon the next 48-hour review type of thing that he's talking about here?
I will make an amendment to my motion that after review by the planning department, if it's within city regulations, that it is then put into motion, but not until you give the okay. Does that sound good, Louis?
I'll second that again.
That's fair.
Second? All right, I got two more council members that would like to speak on this and, or maybe ask you some questions. Mr. Destin?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm a little confused about where we're going with this. Our head staff members asked us to delay it a bit, and it's supported by his staff. So we're about to make a motion to approve something contingent upon approval of the staff. I'm not even sure how you do that. So I'd like to give the staff time to do what they need to do. And it's 2 weeks, which is our next meeting is when? 5th of July.
July 11th.
July 11th. We only have one meeting in July.
That's right. Is that going to critically impact what you're?
We only have 2 weeks, they're pulling it up.
Yeah, this is a time-sensitive deal. I think we're making way more we're making a mountain out of a molehill. But I'm just the mayor, so.
Yep. Well, if procedurally, City Attorney, Kyle, can we approve something based on the approval of staff members?
Well, I mean, it's highly irregular, I'll put it that way. But I don't see legally why you couldn't do it, because you guys have reviewed it, you've come up with it being okay. If staff has reviewed it from a technical aspect from an LDC, I think it could go forward.
That's right, and
but-
after all, who would be the aggrieved party if staff says it's okay?
Exactly.
So we might as well go forward in this highly irregular manner, I guess.
Well, I got a question. We all got our briefing document last week, right? Was this in it?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Then why the surprise here?
Because the city manager and the
Oh, is that what-
director of
So they
community development are saying
Yeah,
they
but they
need some
saw,
time.
they got it Thursday too, so I'm just wondering, Lance, what? It just
I
didn't-
was never informed by the TDC that there was going to be an ask for council's approval tonight. I knew that there was a presentation of potential things to appear near our parks that had to do with this program, but that's all I knew.
Well, so we're in a dilemma. We have a time-sensitive ask. Go ahead, Jim.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with the mayor. We're making a mountain out of a molehill. And number one, words are important. This really isn't a wayfinding sign. At first, surf lessons this way, that means there's surf lessons. Now, when I saw that it was called the Pompano Trail, then in my mind, I thought, oh my goodness, we have a Pompano Trail. What else is on the Pompano Trail? But no, it's at the Pompano Beach access. It's not, there is no Pompano Trail, there is no wayfinding, there is no nothing. So I'm going to ask that we table this to the end of the meeting, and I would ask that you go talk to Lewis and y'all go outside, and in about 5 minutes, y'all should be able to come back and tell us we're good to go. And if you need to take Lance, and you need to take Catherine, and you need to take Kim or whoever else, take them. But we're spending way too much time.
I'll
on
table
real
my
simple
motion
asks.
until that takes place.
Glory to God.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Jim, you're
This
so
is not a
pro.
wayfinding.
Way to go, Jim. Spared us. And we can talk about it, I guess, at the end. So all of y'all want to stick around to the end?
Mayor, can I make a comment?
You can.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I know that we discussed this, I think when Steve Mitchell was here, I think he had asked to do something like this on crosswalks. Can't remember what it was, but it was some kind of decorative crosswalks to make them look nice, and we could not do it. We couldn't, the staff said we couldn't, it couldn't be done. So why is this different? Why can't we do it now?
It's really not a crosswalk. This is not what Steve was talking about, real crosswalks.
It says crosswalk, I mean.
Yeah, but that's a
why-
misnomer. It's across the parking lot. It's not across,
Not in the parking lot, they're painting the entryway.
it's not across a road.
My question is, it's a crosswalk, and we said we couldn't do it on crosswalk, so if it, okay.
Rodney, I tell you one thing we need to do though is we do need to revisit those crosswalk issues because my wife tells me that when she comes down that beach road, right at dark, our crosswalks are dangerous. They are dangerous.
But it's, we were told we could not do them on a crosswalk, and this is a crosswalk that's entering into a city park. I just want to know if we can do it here, then why can't we do it somewhere else?
I would say that this is precisely the type of thing that community development probably needs to be involved in. So they might come back and say, Rodney, that's an issue. And they might nix that thing, so.
Save that one.
Did this go to
if they
Parks
talk
and
about it
Recreation
at the end of the
Department?
meeting.
Did Parks and Recreation Department work on this either? Or no, maybe not?
All right, done? We do need to talk about crosswalks though again. All right, that presentation's over. Now, public comment. Every person can come up here, hit the red button, they'll get 3 minutes. Just state your name and your address, and at about 15 seconds till you're done, I'll politely ask you to wrap up your discussions. Go ahead, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Stone. My address is 375 Grassy Cove. I am treasurer of the founding board of Destin High School. So thank you all for being here, and hopefully some of our parents are going to come back because they didn't understand the process, and they do want to speak. So first and foremost, I
You
want to
could
thank
call them and tell them to come back because they could talk again at the very end of the meeting, and they can hang out with us.
You'll go eat, come back.
Yes.
Okay. First and foremost, I want to thank the council for having the vision to inspire our committee to going out, doing the research, figuring out why we don't have a high school, and then building it. We, obviously knew there was a long-running story in Destin that we couldn't have a high school because there weren't enough kids. Well, I'm here to tell you that not only did we hit our goal of 300 the first year, we're already at 500 for year 2, with our full expectation to be at 800 to 1,000 in the next 2 years after that, year 3 and 4. And I do appreciate what you said about getting capital outlay at year 3. That is true, but we are a separate entity. We are chartered by the district, but we don't just get additional gifts of funding from them. We get the amount of funding per student that registers at our school. So when that comes to us, we have to be fiscally responsible to pay all our bills first, and that does not leave any money for athletics. All the money that they have raised to get 22 sports programs up and running the first year was because of that man sitting right there. And he did and accomplished something that no one else could have done on his own with the support of the people that are coming back into the room. So when I say Morgan Sports is ideal, it is because, as you mentioned, the boys can run there. Destin Elementary is not fit for what we have built in Destin High School. Annexing into the city, yes, that's a great idea. I'm sure that we would be for it. No one has ever brought that up because we didn't buy a property and build a school. We bought a property that already existed as a church that happened to be zoned in the county. We had no control over that. We had 8 months to build it, renovate it, and get 300 kids to fill the school so that we could afford to pay our mortgage. So that's where we are. We have not asked the city for 1 penny towards this project, but we are asking you for a baseball field. So these boys do not have to drive 600 miles to play America's pastime. It is a simple ask. It is not anything that needs to be kicked to Destin Elementary, where, it's not even near our school. We built this school for Destin. We were charged by the council to go do it, and we did it. We volunteered our time, our resources, our finances. Every single board member, including Myra back there, who's just retired from the board but is still here, has given of their own funding to this project.
Can you wrap it up, Sarah?
I'm sorry.
That's
No,
fine.
I can't, but- okay, I will.
It's okay. Just wrap it up if you
So
would.
again, I appreciate the suggestion to go to Destin Elementary and have a field, but these boys, they have an amazing coach. They want to be able to play their game, and they want the community to come out and watch them play, just like they do at Destin Middle. And I ask you to seriously reconsider this decision, because I do not agree with it, and I think it's really sad that that's where we are on
Thank
our
you, ma'am.
baseball.
Thank you, ma'am. Next. Okay, this is public comment. This is not a cheerleading exercise. And I appreciate the applause. Sarah did a wonderful job with her comments, but hold the applause, okay? Everybody can come up here and share their thoughts at this time with this council on this issue. So if you, instead of applauding, come on up here and talk. Go ahead. You got it.
Hi, Chris Harris, 411 Twin Lakes. I'm also on executive board of Destin High School, and my daughter goes there also. So my thing is safety. Like, first of all, my kid can drive, so I don't want her driving across bridges because she's a young driver. I want her to be able to stay local and drive to a school. And then when they go to after-school events, I want her to stay local and drive to a thing. And then this driving, 2,500 miles or something every away gate at Pace and Paxton, it's horrible. So I would ask for you guys to look at here at Morgan's, because it's, when kids are coming from out of town, this is more of a presentable place than Destin Elementary. Not that it's a bad school, but it's like you don't want to show them up and then walking 300 yards to the back corner of a field in the trees. It's just not presentable. So this is a nice facility. We can have people come here. We have parking. There is some investment here. And then when you asked about the shared use before, so Destin Little League, I was a vice president on the board there as well, and we had this issue. Howard Wortman, you guys know Lisa for sure. There's no intermediate capable fields in Destin either. So Little League, once you get to majors, you're done, because Threadgill's all we have. So when they needed to go to intermediate, which is the next level, they had to leave. You had to leave Destin and go to Niceville or go somewhere else. You couldn't play here anymore. So all of our feeder kids are losing the ability to continue on unless they're like elite athletes going to Niceville or something. Not every kid is. They want to play baseball. Destin gives them that ability. So if we could get this feeder thing going from majors into intermediate, give them a field to play in, keep them local into our high school, we would appreciate it. So that was the other thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Next. Come on up. Just state your name and your address.
Hi, guys. My name is Daniel Frankfurt, 336 Kelly Plantation. I think that the Morgans makes a little bit more sense. We have problems over at Destin Elementary. As far as concessions, bathrooms are concerned, there's only that small bathroom over by the track that only has about 2 stalls. There's definitely more bathrooms here that can fit families, teams, when you have JV, varsity. So you're talking about hundreds of people and a facility that's already designed to fit those people. Concessions is another, I know we talk about money here, getting tax dollars, but it's also another source of revenue for you when you have hundreds of people, the kids, brothers and sisters that are coming to get the meals, you're getting some more dollars that way. Also, when you're thinking about timing, high school gets out at 2:30, elementary school gets out at 3. If you have kids coming straight over there, if anyone sat in the line to try to pick up a kid at Destin Elementary, it's obnoxious. You're there an hour early if you want to be, only keep your line to 1 hour, otherwise it's a long time. The congestion there by asking another 50 students with cars and buses to go over there is going to be another added problem. Destin Little League is probably one of the best part of our community. If anyone's been there on any night of the week, it's where everyone goes.
people that don't live within the city of Destin, that are in unincorporated Destin, and those that do. Kids that go to Destin Elementary School that compete in class and go to their teachers and say, I had fun playing baseball. We won. I had an inside the park home run. It's those stories and those memories that we want to give the kids. And giving them a field right here, and I think you may have misinterpreted the request. I don't think there's any dollar request that they're asking of you. They're saying, we'll get the money. We've got parents, we've got kids here. We have business leaders who want this for our children. We just want you to allow us to use Morgan's. We'll build it. You let us use it. It makes more sense to use Morgan Sports Complex for many reasons. Proximity, logistics, bathroom, everything that's important to what makes a community is right here. They're not asking for much. I too would ask that you reconsider your motion and change it so that you can reconsider Morgan's as the place, because it is the right solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Next. I just want to remind everyone there is going to be another opportunity at the very end of the meeting to speak your mind on any issue, baseball or non-baseball issues. You have the microphone. Name and address.
Hey, Josh Ulrich, 4113 Indian Trail. Was born and raised here in Destin. I went to Destin Elementary, played Little League at Threadgill Park. Unfortunately, I had to go to Bruner Middle School. Unfortunately, I had to go be a Viking. I can't, I can't tell you.
That's all we had at the time.
I can't tell you how excited I am that Destin finally has a high school. This town, the tourism has gotten so busy. You know how dangerous it is for our kids to drive to Fort Walton Beach to go to high school. 16-year-old kids driving on bloody 98. Let's not do that. If they want to play baseball, they would have had to go to play at Fort Walton and go drive to practice over there. Now we have it here. Let's give them the facility to go to high school and play the sports they want to play and have a home team, a home field advantage. Look how many people came out to the spring football practice. A lot of the community came out there. You're going to have the same thing for baseball. My understanding what Coach Dorn was talking about, the elementary school field, I mean, what was that, $100,000 you added up? I mean, I just calculated it in my head, and it seems like over here is going to be about 20 grand. So it's a huge difference. It wasn't the same. I think some of y'all were confused in the price. It was it, am I wrong?
It's about $38,000 to redo the elementary.
Okay, all right, so my math was wrong. I misunderstood some of the numbers apparently. But I think Morgan's makes more sense. It's like Daniel was saying, it's close, they can walk across the street. You know, I played for Coach Threadgill. I'm sure he'd be ecstatic to hear that there's a high school here and they got high school baseball now. I'm sure Charles Morgan would, you know, I don't know how this Morgan's complex became about. It's my rumors. I understand that Charles donated or something. I really don't know. You say y'all lease it from somebody. I don't know who you lease it from, the county or whatever. But we can figure that out. I'm sure if Charles does have something to do with this, I'm sure he would love to have the high school play over there. And my son plays travel baseball. The field can be manipulated for different age levels. That's easy. Put the plugs in the ground, move the bases back and forth. It's fine. They have the temporary fences you throw out in the outfield for shorter fields. It's not a problem. They can do it. The only problem you have is a grass infield for softball.
Thank you,
That's
Josh.
it. So let's do it at Morgan's. We need y'all's support. The community came together, built these kids a high school, didn't ask anything from the city. We're asking one thing, baseball field. Let's get together and do it.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Like I said, there'll be another opportunity to speak at the very end. Take your time, don't trip. State your name and address, ma'am. Go ahead.
Hey there, I'm Deb Meserve, 930 Gulf Shore Drive. I represent a different demographic here. I am a taxpayer with no kids. I have nobody going to the high school, but I am all in with this high school. I have seen what they can do with fundraising. I can see what they do with their sports programs, and the heart that goes into that high school is absolutely exceptional. I moved to Destin, we bought our property in 2004, and I came here not to make money in Destin, but to live in Destin. I want a small town. I want that small town feel of going out to a baseball game and cheering on that high school team. I also hang out with a bunch of the older folks in Destin, and you should hear them talk at the gym. Every score that gets posted in the newspaper, every guy in that gym is taking credit for it. Hey, did you see or hear that Destin, won this? Hey, did you just see the score? The girls softball team just beat so well. So there is a sense of pride in a demographic in Destin that has no kids at the school, but their sense of pride in the city is immense. And so you're not only representing the kids and the parents that are here, but you're representing people like me that want that sense of pride when you see the newspaper and you flip to the scores and you're like, did Destin win? I'm going to bring my folding chair out, and I want to go to the games. I wanted to go to the games at Morgan. I don't want to go to the elementary school. There's a sense of pride, too, that as somebody who has moved to the town and not grown up here, when you go to that sports complex and you see what the city has done to keep it at the level that it's at, that's a source of pride as well. And so you're not only funding a school, you're funding people like me that are proud to be here as a transient who wants that small town feel, who wants to watch the kids as they march in the Christmas parade. Everybody's felt a sense of pride there. And so, there's a little bit of aspect of that going on as well. They're fundraising. The Booster Club at the high school is exceptional. The parents involved in it under Chief Dorn's leadership, I've gone to the meetings, I've gone to their events, and they are a powerful group of people when they set their mind to something. And so when they partner with you, you're going to be, I think, overwhelmed by the capacity, the leadership, and the effectiveness of the people who are engaged in Destin High School. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else?
Can I go one more on that?
Nope. You had your shot.
Chris Harris again, 411 Twin Lakes.
Said no.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't really?
No, you really can't. Hey, Chris, you can at the end, though. Oh, don't you want to stay here to the very end, like 9 o'clock, 10? Go ahead, Sandy.
Sandy Trammell, 3823 Indian Trail, and I'm not going to talk about the high school. Sorry. Anyway, I was just concerned about the Little Adventures presentation because I looked at that, and here's a sign that says snorkel at the jetties. Do you know how dangerous that is? We have rescued more people at the jetties from that current than we have ever had. And where are they going to park?
That's a
So, I think
that's
those
a
are the kinds
company, Sandy.
I know, but I
Okay,
think
it's
you
not.
can
They're
say,
not telling people to grab a snorkel and go out there on their own. That's actually leads them to a company that takes them and supervises them to snorkel there.
Well, good luck on that.
That's what the Little Adventures is directed to small businesses throughout our city.
Okay, and I also read the waste management draft, and I'm really concerned about fining for putting the wrong thing in the recycle bin, and the fact that we can no longer recycle glass, and there has been no notice given to the citizens if that goes through. So please take note of that. I don't think that's fair to do that and not notify those of us that are putting glass in our recycle bin.
The fine, there's a fine?
Yes, if it's contamination, if you put something in the recycle bin that doesn't belong in the recycle bin, and if you have 10% of contamination, according to your contract, if there's 10% contamination, and they have a camera on the truck, I've already asked them, that looks, and if you have more than 10%, they can fine you because now you've ruined essentially the whole recycle thing, and it all has to go to the landfill. So, anyway, I think we need to look at that again. I'm not sure what or how or why, but I think we need to look at that. Thank you.
Boy, one bad apple with a trash can could ruin it for everybody.
That's right.
But I understand why. Come on up, sir. State your name. Button list.
There we go. All right, I'm not used to this. Louis Figueroa at 701 Hickory Street. Also a longtime Destin resident. My family moved here when 87. So those days of going to Bruner and having to leave after you got 12 years old to go play travel ball and play in the bar Those stories that resonate, I live that. I've had 3 kids come through Destin Middle School, and the whole Destin High School concept to me at first was a little bit foreign. I was kind of against it, to be honest with you, at first. But the things that these people have accomplished, if you haven't been over there, then I highly encourage you to do that, because there's something really special going over there. And my ask of the council is much broader than just the baseball field. My ask of the council is to bulldoze the barriers that this school is encountering in order for them to be even more successful than they have been. Instead of being barriers, let's bulldoze those barriers down, because this Destin High School is good for our community. I mean, it's good for business. It's good for long-term sustainability. When people move into towns, what do you ask for first? Most of you have lived here all your life, so you don't know. Let me tell you what you ask for. You ask what the schools are like. Okay, that's the number one thing. And our kids having to drive over to Niceville or to Fort Walton to go to high school for whatever reason, it's just not cutting the mustard anymore. And we really need some help on some other projects, not just on the baseball. There's going to be a lot of projects that we need help on. And so I just ask the council to really get behind the school, because this is something that's really, it could be the gem of the community. Not to mention that these boys that you're talking about here, they're good. They've won, the Destin Middle School for the last 4 years has won the county championship. And our boys get scattered everywhere. They go to South Walton, they go to Niceville and shine, they go to Fort Walton and shine. This could be like the crown jewel of the city. Something to do on Friday night besides go down to the harbor. You know, so anyway, I just ask for y'all's support. Thanks.
Thank you, Lewis.
Yeah.
Name and address, gentlemen.
Charlie Frankfurt, 336 Sky Plantation Drive. Caleb Wright, 233 Talquin Cove. What were y'all saying was the estimated time for the fixes you were going to do on the Destin Elementary field? Is it the same as the one that y'all doing on the Morgan's field? Or is it different?
Well,
I don't think there was anything said about doing fixes at the Destin Elementary field.
Oh, we wouldn't fix it up at all. It would just be the exact same field.
You talking about the motion?
Yes.
I can't answer that because I wasn't really.
we don't have an answer yet because the motion was for our staff to look into the feasibility of it and cost and that kind of stuff. So it will probably create some anxiety of having anything done in time for your baseball season. I think that's what you're getting towards.
Yes, but also if we were to spend any amount of money, and then when the 3 to 5 years does come and we have to look for a new field, we would be in this exact same situation with just less money. And I guarantee you, y'all aren't going to build any new fields or anything in that 3 to 5 years, because you would say it's already met our needs at the Destin Elementary field. So I think by waiting, we're only pushing it off more, and we're not, we're not, facing the problem at hand. And unless y'all plan to just use the field as it is, that's still just 3 to 5 years that we're just sitting and waiting. That's just temporary, which really isn't good for anybody.
Would you like to add anything to his comment?
No, thank you.
All right. You're just up there for moral support?
Yeah.
Well, you've done an excellent job making
Thank
your
you.
points. Was there anything you'd like to add? You still got a few minutes or a few
Yes,
seconds left.
Yeah, I got something else to say. I know that when they played baseball, I didn't go to a single away game, but I went to a lot of the home games. And so I say that to say that, in terms of revenue from people, outside people coming to the games, only their parents are going to go to the away games and travel that 2,500 miles. But like Mr. Lewis said, it's going to invite people to come on Fridays. We're going to make money from concessions, tickets, and just, there's going to be people coming in all the time if it's a home field. But away, nobody wants to go that far, especially if they're not on the team.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Oh, I told one person they couldn't come up? Oh, I thought you were trying to get a second shot.
I will say we are looking for members on the youth council.
There's one right there. Two of them right there.
Sandy, they don't live in the city limits.
Come on up, sir. Go ahead. Hit the red, turn the light on, and state your name and your address. It's a button, the gray button. There you go. You're on.
Hi, good evening, Torrey Guile, 33 Country Club Drive East. I understand there's a lot of people that are getting emotional here. I have children here as well. I just ask and I trust that whenever you guys make this decision, you're going to look at the big picture, the burden on the citizens, the maintenance, the cleanup, and that decision is made wholeheartedly for the community and not necessarily just a couple emotional situations or personal declarations. I mean, there's going to be potential legal implications, potential burdens, and I trust that you guys are going to take all that into account and make that right decision moving forward. But I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Tori. Anyone else? Okay.
I want to ask
Let me close public comment, and then you can have at it. All right, anyone else? Going once, going twice? We'll close public comment at this period. I want to remind everyone, call your friends. There'll be an opportunity at the very end to speak again. So with that being said, and before we move on to our consent agenda, Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of confusion listening on the funding of how schools, charter schools in particular, are funded. There's actually two funding components, is my understanding, but I want staff to research this and bring it back. There is the FTE funding, which you're talking about. You get $7,000 or whatever you get per child, and you spend that to take care of children and pay your mortgage or whatever y'all are doing by audio visual. You get capital improvement funding, and that's what I'm talking about. That's a separate funding stream, and that is for exactly what it says, capital improvements. That's for your buildings, that's for your stadiums, that's for your parks, that's for your whatever a school's going to have, gymnasiums. And those are two separate funding streams, but I want the staff to confirm that. And I would like, if you could, to ask the school board to provide the council a copy of their capital improvement plan for the next 5 years, because I'm pretty sure they have one. And I would like to see, and I'd like to see if Destin High School is included, because in 5 years, they will have crossed that 3-year threshold, and there should be money in that budget now. I think we're on the same team, folks, and God bless all of you. But schools are funded generously in this state, and they should be, because it's the most important thing probably the state does. But we've got to see what our school district is spending on this school. The city is your partner, but I guarantee you 90% of the money you're going to get is not going to be from parents fundraising and not going to be from the city council. It's going to be from that school district, because they have millions for capital improvements, millions, and they need to be spending it. You should be getting your fair share, not your fair share of the $7,000 per child that goes there. So let's understand the funding model and let's work together. Thank you.
Rodney.
Thanks, Mayor. I just want to clear a couple things up I think need to be said. One, I believe if it was not for Dr. Preble Ramswell that's sitting in a seat right here on council, there would not be a Destin High School. I think Myra was on that group, the committee, that, you probably was too, there were several people, but if it wasn't for these young ladies that sat right here, because it was said earlier that they haven't asked this council for nothing. Well, it's this council that gave you a high school, I believe. There's a lot of people who worked on it, but if it wasn't for Ms. Ramswell, there wouldn't be a high school. So, and we're trying to work, we've got our staff trying to work, we just can't, and for someone to come to that podium and more or less tell me that I need a field and if you don't give me what I want, where I want it, how I want it, you're a horrible person. You need to be taken out back and beat with a stick. That, there's been some, and I'm just saying, I'm right here, and there's been some emotions at this podium up here tonight.
Let's keep it civil here. We're not directing this back and forth. Go ahead, Mr. Braden.
There's been some motions said at the podium tonight, and that's kind of the way I took it. But, I mean, we directed the staff to do what they ask, and, you know, for somebody, I don't get it. I guess, go get a stick or something. I mean, we've done everything we can do. I mean, this council has done what we can do. We direct the staff to come back and give us something. We just can't say tonight, you know, cut out a baseball field and give it to them. Whatever they need, do it. We can't do that tonight. I mean, I'm done.
All right. Okay, gentlemen, ladies, let's move on. We have the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Said motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, let's vote. Ayes have it, so moved. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First up, we've got Resolution 22-09, which is regarding maximum fees for towing and remobilization, and staff is recommending a modest increase in those maximum fees, and Mr. Baumann is here to help answer any questions on it.
All right, I'll entertain a motion, and then we can start having a little chat about it.
I'll make the motion to adopt Resolution 2209.
Second.
Got a motion second. Go ahead. Kyle, you have any
Sure.
comments?
I don't have a whole lot to add. It's a pretty simple resolution. In your code, it's pretty comprehensive towing regulations. One of your regulations does ask that you, or require you, amend this resolution from time to time. I mean, we are in tough economic times. It does seem like a reasonable request based on what Kevin, as a legislative sponsor, and I discussed with the towing industry and also reviewed across the state. So I think it's reasonable.
Bobby.
Just a question, honestly, on it. I know, just like with the sheriffs, we get a 7% back from tickets and everything like that. Is that something that is possible to add into this, or is there a way for the city to have some net income in this?
I don't think that, because this does not involve public property at all. This is simply private property towing, basically capped fees. So I don't think that I think the lack of city involvement would not allow us to
Cool.
have
Just
that
my
kind of
question.
fee on
Yep.
it.
Yeah, and don't we, when they violate our parking lots, we actually do get revenues from that, correct?
I have to defer to Lance or Crystal. I don't know exactly whether we get revenues or not, but I believe we do.
Somebody?
Yes, so if they violate the rules within our parking lots, our nice code enforcement officers walk around and they note things, and through the passport parking system, we collect those fees when people pay them. If they violate other types of parking rules, like they park the wrong way on a street, then the sheriff's officers are involved, and that goes through the Okaloosa County Clerk of Courts, and percentage of that comes back to the city as well.
All right, thank you.
It's small potatoes,
That's
though.
what I thought. All right, if there's no other further comments, we'll go ahead and take this one to a vote. Go ahead. No, I haven't hit it yet. I haven't, if you want to chat.
Yeah, I wanted to.
Go ahead.
I support the motion. I just don't think y'all went far enough, and the legislative sponsor's leaving, so. I don't know if I can, he also made the second of the motion. In 7 years, you want to raise the towing fees from 125 to 150, and 200 to 225, and 300 to 320. I honestly don't think $25 is enough. I would have raised the towing fees $50, and I'm not making a substitute motion, but if you were to change that part, I would wholeheartedly support, because especially with gas, these guys are buying diesel. You know, at $5, $6 a gallon, they're losing money, even though we're giving them a $25 increase towing these vehicles. So I would ask you to consider, I don't want to do this.
Well, before we do a
He's the
substitute
legislator.
motion, let's ask the attorney, seeing how this is a resolution and a vote on a resolution, do we need to have staff rewrite it if they want to increase it, or can we include that in the present resolution if somebody wants to make a substitute motion?
It's not an ordinance, since it's just a resolution. You
Okay.
can strike through it tonight and tell me how you want it rewritten and approve those strike
Can I make a substitute to increase it by another $25?
Okay, so the only thing, I do want y'all to make sure you understand what exactly is being increased, because there's a lot of $25 fee increases. You're just talking the 3 towing fees. Class B, Class C. Okay, so that would be the substitute motion. Or were you the original motion maker, Teresa? You were, okay, so that's an amendment to your motion, and then Kevin?
So the amendment would be on Class A, B, and C, an additional $25 than what's
So that
presently written?
it would be $175 per vehicle for Class A, $250 per vehicle for Class B, and $350 per vehicle for Class C.
And the rest of the resolution you'd also adopt? Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. And just to answer you, Jim, I mean,
How about the second on that?
yeah, that was me. So
Okay,
I'm fine with
okay.
it. I'm sure they'll be they would love that. These numbers came from them directly in working with them. So I'm sure they'll be even happier. So that's where it came from originally, was their
And
recommendation.
price of fuel's gone up $2.75
Right. I
say,
a
wasn't that
gallon.
about a month
So I'm
ago?
sure, I mean, they'll be
They'll
even
be
more
happy,
thrilled.
yeah.
They'll be more thrilled. So,
Mr.
yeah.
Destin,
Let's vote.
I would just reiterate, this is in fact what they asked for.
That was a month ago. It's gone up.
It has, but, you know, do we want to make it so onerous to get into our code in Destin? And believe me, I'm fighting with them every day, all day. But, you know,
all right, Mr. Destin?
I would support the number that they asked for.
All right, well, we got a motion that's been amended, and the second was approved, and so we're going to take a vote. What happened to Rodney?
Might be on that.
I think Rodney has left the meeting, so we need to turn off his voting mechanism. And if you make note of that in the minutes as well, Ray.
A council member's not allowed to do that, is he?
He can leave in the middle of the meeting. If he was just taking a break, though, we need to wait for him to vote. But I was told that he was leaving at 7:30, so.
Oh, so it was a prior agreed time?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then, I guess he's allowed. All right. Well, Jim is voting. Technology is a wonderful thing. I could take a roll call vote if this doesn't work out. Nope. All right. Let's take a roll call vote. Mr. Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. Destin? Mr. Bagby? Yes. Ms. Teresa?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Ayes have it, so moved. Can we get some technical assistance? Oh, there we go. That's all right. We're good. We're legal. All right. Sir?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 4B, council had asked staff to bring back the solid waste franchise agreement. This is not a first reading. Staff is looking for council's direction as how to bring back the first reading document. So we do need to look at the franchise fee, which was current or is currently at 1%. It could go as high as 6%. That is at the discretion of council. We also want to make sure that the designations that were talked about during the first meeting when we talked about this, where we would designate the proceeds to go to parks and recreation maintenance funds and to stormwater repairs is still valid. And of course, we have members from Waste Management. We have Jake, Doug, and Ronnie all here to answer questions if the council needs answers to those questions, and I'm sure there will be one or two. And Ronnie tells me this is absolutely his last meeting with Waste Management.
It won't be. He can't stand it. So we can go up to 6%. I bet you our pickleball folks would like us to add a percentage point if we could designate it to pickleball only. That's my recommendation. So all my pickleball friends out there, I'm fighting for you. All right. Any comments on this particular document as submitted while we have the experts in the industry here? Mr. Destin, you're up first.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a number of questions, and one of the ones that I had also had to do with Ms. Tremmel's review of the sections that have to deal with the single stream, and after reading through those, and as you can see, this is a bunch of new material. I'm not real comfortable with exactly what it means, other than I see that they can fine and charge more, and I really need to do some more analysis on this or have someone that understands it a little better. So that whole section, which I think, let's see, that was, starts up at J, K, yeah. And
Page
goes
11.
through quite a bit of, well, anyway, that needs more analysis. I plan to ask someone who has a little more knowledge on this than I do about what effect this has on recycling. So we need some answers on that. On a couple of other questions I had, there was a fee in here about if your can was overstuffed, and it said that you can charge a fee, or Waste Management can charge a fee. Now, is that new to the franchise? Because I think they've been charging a fee for quite a while already.
Want to answer that, Ronnie? Come on up. Yeah, one of you just come up here, stay up here.
Yeah.
Doug. Hey, with that also, by the way, I need a new green container. Mine's cracked almost in half. Things are falling out of it. Just put that on the public record.
Doug Rayner, Waste Management. I won't be here long because I don't know very much, 3 months in. Ronnie's leaving me in 10 days, but Jake Aldifer back here, our district manager, knows more about garbage than anybody. That is a new fee. That's a residential fee.
It was always applied to commercial, is that correct?
There has been an overage fee for commercial, yes.
Right, and that was in the previous
Correct.
ordinance, so that's not new.
Correct.
This one is just for the residential.
The one that you're talking about is a new. It's an overage fee for residential.
Okay, and how much is it if their bucket's a little overfilled?
It is, I think it's 25% of the residential fee. Yeah, the overage fee could be 25% of the residential fee.
That's a little expensive, isn't it?
For the year?
Yeah.
For the billings, for the month.
For the month.
So if you did it every month, it could be for the year.
It could be, yes.
Until you get that bill and you quit doing it.
Yeah.
Well, the definition of overfilled is the can lid was up by, how much?
6 inches.
Up by 6 inches?
My monthly charge is going up for them
Yeah.
kids living with us until they
It'll be a
build
lot.
their house.
My only problem with this, it seems to be there's a number of places where we can charge more, substantially more perhaps. So this is not the first reading, and we will make motions at the first reading to take in or leave in, take out or leave in things, but that's an area that concerns me. And of course, let's see what else I have scribbled down to myself here. The other thing that really confuses me, and I think is a bad idea, is to put into ordinance form where we're going to spend the franchise money. That makes no sense that I can see, because then you'd have to go back and change an ordinance through several readings, whereas we need to have flexibility. While we may well intend to go to those issues, the actual argument made by the staff about why we needed to up these fees is that we had to create money to pay for the pay increases that we have granted. And if that's the case, then designated in an ordinance that the money shall go to such and such is totally unnecessary and probably illogical. So I would say that we shouldn't put that in there.
Most franchise fees, except for our undergrounding, it usually goes to the general budget.
That's right.
Normally, correct?
And even our undergrounding, while we said it's pledged and should we bond it, it would be, is not binding. Franchise fee, whether it be for the Gulf Power or here, can be spent at the discretion of the governmental entity, period.
Mr. Destin, do you want to direct staff on that particular issue?
If,
Because they're going to be writing it
right,
to bring it back to us.
yep, my opinion is we shouldn't be putting in an ordinance form what we're going to use the money for when it can be used for general government purposes.
So noted, Crystal? Lance, you got that? Okay. Anything else, sir?
On the other fees, we'll do that when we go through first reading. And as far as the franchise fee itself, I know we need to give them an answer on what we're gonna do tonight. And that's, you guys don't have a dog in that fight, so you're good. But, I noticed that at 1%, we're raising $40,000. At 6%, we're raising $240,000 because it says 200 additional, 5 times as much money. I think that's a little bit more than we should be charging. I know we are saying that we charge everybody else more. We don't mandate that you buy the cable service. We don't even mandate that you have to buy power from Gulf Power. If you want to buy a generator and can comply with the rules and regulations, this is the only franchise at the moment that we mandate that every citizen who lives in Destin must purchase.
I think that's why it's been kept at 1%.
And that's exactly why it was lower. And so, you know, to go up 5 times what it was, in my opinion, that's too much.
There you go. All right. I'm all boogered up. Mr. Bagby, or no, Miss Abear, you're next.
No, we covered it.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, we can do that. Let's just make it simple. Go ahead, Bobby.
All right. No, I agree. I definitely think the general fees, I don't think we should box ourselves into a corner. That was one of mine. Secondly, you know, over fees and dumping things into the wrong bin, just because you don't see where it goes doesn't mean it's not someone else's problem. It's all of our problem. So, you know, learn to obey the rules or get a fine. And so that's how I feel about the recycling. So learn what the rules are and follow by them, because it's either everyone does it or it doesn't matter what we do, because 10% kills it all. So, you know, figure those rules out. We can get with Catherine and we can put our own videos out and do some educational pieces on that. But I don't really mind the fees in there, and I appreciate you guys putting the cameras in there and, you know, keeping people accountable for where they go and what they throw away. So I don't mind that. The 20% turns into about $5 for an overfee. And you know what? I'm gutting my second garage right now. If I got an extra $5 charge tomorrow, I'd be okay with it, because that would be a cheap, easy way to get rid of it all. So.
Yeah, and just, the overage fee it's just a pass along because you're having to pay it as a company to the landfills, correct? I just want people to understand this is not something Waste Management's making up, because they're gonna profit on people screwing up how they fill
Yes,
their
sir, Mayor.
garbage can.
Ronnie Bell, 108 Hill Avenue, Fort Walton. The issue with the overage, there's a couple of things here. Is one, in your current contract, and it will be in this contract, if we go to dump a can, a cart, or we dump a commercial dumpster, if we spill it, we got to pick it up. And most of the time, if we're going to spill something, it's because it's overloaded. The contamination. This is the first one in this area, and thank God I'm leaving, that Doug is going to be left with. All of our new contracts. This came out from corporate second week of May, somewhere in that area. Waste Management has made an investment of $30 million since we were last here to build a municipal recycling facility in Fort Walton Beach. Your recyclables will go to that facility. Your recyclables currently have been going to ECUA in Pensacola. This week, ECUA shut down for 2 months. because of a part.
I mean, their recyclables would go on IREP.
Oh, yeah. Yours have been going to IREP, but everything else, we would usually take it to ECUA in Pensacola because it's closer. But we've used your recyclables because it's pretty clean, and we've taken it to Montgomery to keep that contract open for just what happened this week. So everything in Okaloosa County will now be going to Montgomery because they're shut down for a breakdown, a part they have to have that's going to take 2 months to get. But Waste Management made a commitment here in Fort Walton Beach in Okaloosa County to build a $30 million facility because there's none in Northwest Florida. Well, you have ECUA and you have Marpan. Neither one are taking new customers. But the only way that recyclables, come back to what Councilman said, can find a good end market is have to be clean. Whether it's our facility or IREP or anywhere else. So that's why they're rolling out the contamination charges. The smart trucks, the cameras have been put on the residential trucks that it takes a picture when it gets there, it takes one here, it takes one there. So that they can go back, and I love to pick on Mr. Bagby, and go to Mr. Bagby and say, we're not going to charge Destin, we're not going to charge commercial entities, we're going to charge Jim Bagby. But I come back to what Ms. Trammell said. You don't just roll this out. There's got to be information provided. Someone told me a long time ago as a county elected official, you don't say educate the public, but you have to inform them. Well, I think we would do, work with your staff, but also the thing that Doug would do is to put some type of flyer, maybe even to go out and put it on every can. We recently done that with another count. And it would give you the opportunity, some people are going to listen, some aren't, but at least you've made every effort to inform them of what the new regulations are going to be. Our goal, and I know both these guys, our goal is not to come out here and be the garbage police and to go out there and start finding people. It's to try to get them into a new practice and to do it the right way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of things. Number one, the effective date, I got a whole laundry list, but half of it can wait till we actually have an ordinance here. The effective date is when we pass it, the mayor signs it. I would ask, this ordinance shall take effect immediately upon its adoption by the City Council of the City of Destin, Florida. Okay? I would just make sure that we do it 1 October or when it, okay. Because that gives us 4 months, 5 months, whatever it is, to educate, to inform the public. On the franchise fee, as long as we have similar wording to what's in the undergrounding or into the utility franchise fee, the FPL, they're FPL now, right? I'm happy. It doesn't have to be dedicated. I'm not sure what word. I don't remember that, how we did that. But we need to have money identified to solve known problems or known things that known priorities, I guess, undergrounding being a priority. On the franchise fee amount, you're right. We don't require them to use cable. We don't require them to use anything else, electricity, telephones, whatever. I can't support 1%. Obviously I supported 6% before and that got shot down. So, 3 or 4%, I could probably find common ground there. 40,000 just isn't enough. And I understand how it's a cost. On the overage fees, I pay overage fees as a commercial user down in Walton County. I know you probably pay. And, it's half of it is educating my staff, informing my staff. They got cameras. Here's the picture they took. Who put this box in, on this date? Because you guys just cost me another $200 or whatever. And then sometimes people come along and think, oh, well, there's a dumpster, and they just throw stuff in, and because they think it's a community dumpster. So I understand the overages and I understand the recycling, and I agree. As probably one of the only people that lives in a mixed neighborhood between short-term rentals and residents, full-time residents, I get it. I see, even when they have 2 or 3 trash cans at the 12-bedroom rental house across the street, they're still all, the tops are up, and there's bags all around those 3 trash cans, and I see the waste management guy, because he's the one parking and pitching and refilling the can and doing that, and I'm thinking they either need to get more cans, or we need to figure out a way to make that rental property owner, because he's slowing down the truck, it hurts the whole system. So I'm supportive, 6 inches, and those cameras are good, because having paid a few fines, they're good. But that would be the only guidance that I would probably give staff at this point was, you're on the right track. Let's see if we can find some mutual agreed language on the franchise fee and some mutual agreed amount or percentage on the franchise fee. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Ms. Tracer.
He covered everything I was going to question and also what Bobby brought up. So I'm good. Thanks, Mayor.
Johnny?
I'm good, thank you, sir.
Kevin?
Thank you. Only thing I'll echo is, the contamination, I understand what Bobby is saying. I get it's about informing people. And so I think I heard you say that you would work with the city to help inform. Is it ultimately, whose responsibility is it at the end of the day to inform residents and customers of the changes and the new rules and things like that?
Well, I think it's both of ours, because we bill, so we can do that through the bill. You have a platform and an audience with your residents directly in a lot of ways, so we would do that together. In a straight line, I don't think that, I guess it would be yours, but we would take responsibility in that as well.
Gotcha.
And to go back to that, this is something we can ease into, and to Mr. Bagby's point, it's not something that on October 1st, cans up 6 inches, or something's contaminated with something they shouldn't have, that fines start rolling out. And we have a rollout process that, and Ronnie mentioned this is very new. Very new to me, even Ronnie and Jake. So we're trying to work our way through that. The rollout process is something we're going to have to learn together, and I think that we can do that. Catherine's good at what she does. Bobby and you guys have an audience with your residents too, so we can work with you to make that happen.
Thank you. Contamination, I get. I'm not supportive of fees for overages. I made a comment in the past about yard overages or whatever. I truly feel like it's not fair. What does the customer get? Do we get a credit for not having our garbage can out there during the week? Sometimes if you don't pick it up, are you going to give me a credit? No, but one time out of 6 months, I might get a fee because it's overage. It's just, I just don't think that's fair to, I don't use the yard service all year, and then that one day I prune all my big trees, I get a penalty because that one time I use it out of the whole year. But if I wanted to use it every Friday of the year, I could. It's just, I don't think that's fair to customers and citizens to charge them for overage. I got 3 kids, and I have 2 of them that have birthdays within 2 weeks apart of each other. The amount of boxes and trash and collections from my family of 20 that come over and use my pool on a birthday party. It's
Tell
just,
them to take it home.
it's just but I didn't have overage for the past 3 months, but one day I have overage and I'm going to get a fee, because of an overage. It doesn't add up to me. I don't think it's common sense to me. It's not fair to charge overages for those types of things. Just my opinion, but I look forward to the ordinance when it comes, so thank you.
All right, Mr. Destin.
Thank you, Mayor. And I get the contamination part. my fear is that if we don't do a real good job in education, recycling will stop. Why would you even try if you're going to get fined if you make a mistake? And looking through that list, it's pretty complicated. So that's the tightrope that we're going to be walking.
And that's absolutely not what we want to happen.
And-
We want the opposite.
Or us either.
So we will do a lot to try to make that work.
Yep, okay, and just so we all understand the process, we're going to go to the first reading where I anticipate we may make some changes. At that point, these gentlemen say, I don't want this franchise, and we say, well, we'll put it out to bid. Or they say, okay, we'll accept those changes, and we all go happily ever after. So hopefully, we will come through that process, and you guys have been doing a good job. But, there's some changes about the overages that I'm sure we'll discuss. The other issue is, with the nice spirit of compromise here, and that we need to give our staff some kind of a direction so they can put a franchise fee in there. I'll move that we set it at 3%, which is raise 120,000 versus 40, and we can go forward and staff will know what they need to do.
I'll second.
Got a motion, got a second. All right. And Bobby,
Yep. Is there a way we can put in the wordage for you guys to put the stickers back on it? Because, I mean, mine's peeled off after a year. As we go into October, can that be in the language where, here's what goes in the yellow bin? Here's what an overage is on the green bin? Because, I mean, we can all shoot it on platforms all day long, but everyone's got a trash can.
That's the easiest way to do this, is to put it on the can. Any new rules, regulations, or whatever, so everybody sees it. And I don't want to weigh into your franchise fee. Heaven help me, I don't want to get there. But I do want to make sure, and I know all of you have read it, and you've seen it, the same language is in this contract that is in existing. Every year annually, this council has the opportunity to increase or decrease. So, I just said increase or decrease. So just want to point that out.
thanks, sir. All right, we got a motion, we got a second. We're going to vote. Votes unanimous, so moved. Staff, you know where we're going, so got clear direction from this council. Guys, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll see you next time, Ronnie.
I'm gonna bring up the TDC.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, council, for the direction on that. Next up, I am pleased to recommend to the city council that they confirm Ms. Kimberly Corbin as our new code compliance director. Ms. Corbin holds a Master of Arts in Criminal Justice Administration. She holds a Bachelor of Arts in Criminology. She has got the designation as a code enforcement professional from the Florida Association of Code Enforcement. She has also completed all 4 levels of training through the Florida Association of Code Enforcement. She is also certified by the International Code Enforcement Agency as a professional, in addition to multiple other programs that she has completed in her field. I believe she can hear me. I hope so, because she is online right now. And it is my pleasure to present her and hope that you would join me in approving my recommendation tonight.
I'll move to confirm Ms. Corbin as the code compliance director.
Second.
I got lots of seconds on that one, Ms. Corbin. That's good for you. All right. Any questions or any comments? Okay, go ahead, Bobby.
So it wasn't, it's not necessarily under her role, but just with several people that I've talked to out there, if there would be a way for us to slowly start finding a way to, as people report, to have some kind of ticket for them to kind of get some feedback of how that, that citizen report went. I thought that was a great idea, and I think that's something that would be more on the IT side, but just kind of bringing it up since we're in the code compliant, code enforcement arena right now.
You talking about a ticket like they're doing in those counties where the police get, give a card to the person, say, please report how I presented your ticket?
No, more so if, you see something and you report it, for some kind of automation for them to get followed up on, so they're not left in the dark. So, because I feel like our code enforcement are busting butt, and they're doing everything they can within their means of an hourly professional.
Well, let's approve or disapprove this nomination first, and then we can start throwing all kinds of buckets of water on her and ideas for her to do. So, ma'am, would you like to make a comment at this point, right before we take a vote? Go ahead.
Well, I thank you for having me tonight, and I look forward to moving to the city of Destin. I'm in Savannah, Georgia right now, and I have a lot of experience, 15 years as a code compliance director, and I look forward to working with the city of Destin and accomplishing the goals that you have for us.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, any further comments? We have a motion, we have a second, we have a recommendation. Let's vote.
You have 48 hours to get here.
Yeah, the vote is unanimous.
See you shortly.
You better call 2 men in a truck. Thank you. Congratulations, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, council. And to follow up on the councilman's comment,
Ray Clearman.
if you will go to the city's website and log your observations in our complaint system there, then it prompts staff to do follow-up calls and close the loop on things like that. There's other ways to do it, but that's the easiest way to do that.
Awesome, I'll let them know.
Thank you, Bobby. Thank you. Let's go ahead, sir.
Thank you, sir. Next up, we got lien reduction request for number 1 Calhoun Street. We have representatives here on both sides. I believe that the property owner is looking for council to reduce the amount of the lien. They recommend paying 10%. Staff recommends not paying or not reducing it any less than 50%. And we have Ms. Comp and other staff members here to answer any questions.
If anybody has any questions, otherwise I would just let Mr. Tatum present his request to the city council first.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Stephen Tatum, Matthews and Jones. Thank you all for having me here today. There should be a letter in your packets, at least I think it's there, that I wrote on behalf of Mercer Williams. He is the owner of Sandman Development, which owned up until last Friday, 1 Calhoun. We're here before you today to ask for a reduction in the lien amount that was assessed against this property. In 2019, the graffiti house, as it's become, I think, affectionately known, at least by me, has a code enforcement violation brought against it. It was noticed. At first, I didn't think it had been noticed correctly, but staff has proved to me that it was noticed correctly. The proper letters were sent. But a little background on that project and how we even got involved with it as a firm. Dana brought that to the city, that property, for developer agreement back in 2017. It got as far as the completeness review, and then it was, I think, denied just as the way it was presented. And then when it came back to us to amend it, we could never get back up with Mr. Williams. He went just completely radio silent on us for several years. Then that property goes under contract. They do a title search on it. Lien comes back showing $282,000 or $285,000 in lien amount due because of the house, because it's been accruing at $250 a day ever since May of 19. He calls us up, hey, what can we do? This is going to kill the contract. Well, it didn't kill the contract on the property, luckily, but still a huge amount of money that in liens for a problem that cost $5,750 to fix. You see in that letter to you guys, the amount and the purpose of fines is to not make the city money, but to stop someone from not following regulations. I personally believe a $20,000 fine floating over anybody, knowing that, hey, I could get $20,000 for not tearing this house down. And if you've got the ability to go remove the house or to cut your grass or to move a derelict car or boat or something, if you've got that ability, you're going to do it rather than trying to pay $20,000. So talking to Mr. Williams, I'm like, why did you not do anything. He says, well, I don't remember ever getting any notice. He's like, but there was a lot of things going on in my life during that time period. So it's kind of not shady, but it's hard to give you exact dates on anything because Mr. Williams, he suffered a head injury. First, we were under the impression it was during a car wreck, but the car wreck was actually happened in 17 around the time that the code enforcement started. When they first started sending letters, it appears that he was in a car wreck, major surgery on his legs. After he recovers from that, his wife is diagnosed with cancer. She starts going through treatment. He's out working on his farm up in Georgia one day, gets hit in the head with a fabricator. He's in an induced coma for 10 days, in the hospital for over a month. He has short-term memory problems, has very bad short-term memory. He has some long-term memory problems. On top of that, during this time period, his sister commits suicide and his best friend commits suicide. And then his wife passes away in 2021 from the cancer. So it's understandable that he had some other things going on in his life that this was not on the forefront for his attention. So that's why we're before you today, just to ask for, a little bit of grace on this exorbitant amount, because I think we can all agree $282,000 to remove that little shack is a little bit extreme. I mean, he understands, and I think we both discussed it, but he was the first one to say that he thinks he should do something because he could have taken care of it, right after he bought the property and it wasn't done. He understands that, and that there was a responsibility on him to take care of his property. But he's at the point now where $200 and something thousand is a little bit too much. So just any consideration you can give us at all, we're suggesting $20,000, not 20%. But the first I've heard today was when Lance just brought up the 50% mark. So that would bring us down to, what would that bring us down to? 141. Still seems a bit high to me, but I would definitely would not be authorized to settle with you guys today at that amount. But if we could do anything around where we're at, around that 10% mark, that would be great.
Sir?
Thank you.
All right. If we have any further questions, I'll call you up. All right, who wants to go first? Might as well just go right on down the line because everybody's got their little lights lit up except for Mr. Destin and me. So let's go opposite. Kevin, you go first. Well, I'm just going to go right on down the line.
Down here? Okay, thank you. Sorry, I wasn't, expecting I was going last again, so let me get my stuff in order. So
I'll let Teresa go. She's
No,
ready.
it's fine. No,
All
it's
right.
fine. June 2019 was this special magistrate, letter. How many or how often would we have sent the notices of violations or things before all that was happening?
Before the lien was imposed?
This code compliance special magistrate of the city of Destin, June 18, 2019?
So there would have been at least 2 notices provided, and the property was also posted with a sign.
Gotcha. And did we ever receive return to sender or?
No, they were received. They were signed for.
They were signed, so somebody received the notice and we received signature receipt confirmation or something?
Correct.
Gotcha. I mean, first of all, I feel very sad and sorry for Mr. Williams and his family and all of that, that's in the letter. I mean, I truly feel sorry for all this stuff that he's gone through. It's definitely horrible. And it is a large amount, but at $250 a day, it's not a large amount, in my opinion. So, we have a problem with doing exactly what we're doing here to some people sometimes, and there's a reason why we have the ability to do exactly what we did, and I'm glad that in 2019 staff did this. I'm glad that they did it, and when we have the opportunity to do it, I hope they do it for other properties and other businesses or anybody else that doesn't follow the rules. I feel bad for him and what happened, but I guess one question, if you can answer it, is how much is the contract for the purchase of the property.
Sure. You can come back and forth, or you can just stand up there and go through the gauntlet.
We can do that if you like. All right, I've actually got it written down here. It closed at $5.5 million was the sale price. He purchased it at $2.4 million in 2003.
Gotcha.
So we're not up here pretending that he didn't make some money on it over that time period.
Sure.
It's just really it was the slap in the face from him not expecting this $282,000 assessment.
I do have to correct something, though, because I'm looking through the file, and there were some return to senders. However, that's why the property was posted in accordance with the statute. So I wanted to clarify that.
And that was actually what I was going to mention too.
Right.
Okay.
And to add to Kevin's question, from that day, like once a month, from the 19th or 2019 till today, was there any further notifications or letters or anything like that since? Or when they get that one, then it's game on? You're getting fined from here on out till you resolve the situation, and it's burdens on you?
So when the hearing occurred, there was a notice of violation issued and a notice of hearing. However, in addition to those formal written notices, we did have conversations with the attorney that's here, and there were also phone calls with prior code enforcement staff that included Joey Forgione, where they were trying to reach the property owner. Now, it was difficult for staff. Staff made many, many attempts to try to reach the property owner, also by phone and by reaching out to the attorneys. We were unable to get the property owner, and that is when we started conversating with the attorney. And then as he's explaining, it sounds like he had difficulties, I don't want to put words in your mouth, reaching them as well.
But what I would say is there was never any conversation with our firm or anybody else in Destin, as far as I know, about the code enforcement violations or the hearing or the lien getting filed. It wasn't until 2020, I believe, that anybody reached out to me.
That was about the demolition.
That's right.
That's right. So the code enforcement lien went through the regular process. Staff made those phone calls, but we didn't know that there would be attorney involved until later when we found that we were going to abate the property ourselves, and that's when we reached out to the attorney.
Okay, I appreciate
And
it.
that's when you got involved, Stephen?
Yes. And then I couldn't get up with Mr. Williams for
Yeah.
Months.
You had the same problem we had.
yes.
I got you. Crystal, where does the lien collection money go when the city receives it?
It just goes into the general fund, and on the financial statements, it's attributed to the department that collects it. So in this case, it would be public safety.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, sir. Kevin asked a couple of questions I had. Have we in the past given people a break on liens?
You have the authority under the code to do it. I don't believe I've seen one come to council in my 6 years. Lance, do you recall one? But that doesn't mean you don't have you can, it's in your discretion.
I don't recall one either.
Well, the reason I asked is obvious, I think. If we give Mr. Williams a break on the lien, and somebody else has a lien on their house, all I got to do is go down to the city and have them reduce it. And I can tell you with certainty that if I buy a piece of property in Indian Bayou with the plan to develop it, and I let it it runs down and they put a lien on it, they're not giving me any break. I think that's where my mind goes with it, is what would happen if I was the one who had a lien on it? It'd be, charge them to the extent of the law. You know what I mean? So I don't have a whole lot of sympathy. I don't mean to sound ugly. I just don't have a ton of sympathy in this area.
I'm gonna work right on down the thing. It's just a tough thing for you to have to stand here, Steve. I've been working with Kim and Lewis for the last 5 months, talking about putting more teeth in our ordinances for abatement so we can start cleaning up these properties. So you know where I stand on this particular issue.
Well, Mayor, I have to kind of go in the same boat that you're in. We've got several properties right now throughout the city that we are stuck trying to get them to magistrate, trying to make them clean up, stop violating code, all kinds of issues. And we have people that send us, why is this in code right now? Why is this in investigation for people that are violating our ordinances? Because we want people to realize that we want you to follow the rules, because everyone should. And like Kevin said, I'm sorry about all the ill this man went through and the loss, but we can't afford to give anybody a break, because all it does is set us up for failure after that, because we need people to do the right thing. And he obviously knew, he even said, I probably should have done this when it first came up. He put it off. So he was hard to get a hold of. You even said you had a couple years you couldn't get a hold of him. He's making a pretty nice, healthy profit. It's not like it's going to ding him a whole lot to pay the city for the magistrate costs and the time and the fees. So I'm not in favor of giving him a break.
Well, we haven't had a motion or a second yet, but I'm going to continue down the line. We'll let our last
Well,
two
I'm
council
going to
members-
solve that problem for you, Mr. Mayor. I move that we
I love
deny
you,
the
Jim.
request of the applicant and charge the full amount.
Second.
Got a motion and a second.
Now
Would you
I'm
like to
good.
chat?
Yes, now I'll tell you.
Can I finish talking before we go there? Since we
What-
didn't actually do this in the right order, and I didn't.
Well,
Well, you had a chance to present. You
Yeah,
presented.
But I didn't have a chance to respond to all of your
You will
concerns.
you will
You will.
before we take a vote.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
How about that?
That'll work.
Okay, and you can respond to my issues, because
Yep. And that way you get everybody talking,
Yeah.
you'll be able to knock them out one by one, Steve. And you won't have to sue me afterwards because I didn't do it the right way,
yeah.
like you lawyers always do.
This,
See, us boat captains, we just go out in the backyard, roll around out there in the gravel and see who comes out on top. But
so,
you have a lot nicer clothes on, so we won't go that route. Go ahead, Jim.
thank you, I appreciate that, Mr. Mayor. My first issue, if this parcel were back on C-Star Vista, where I live, or Third Street, or, someplace, and all the neighbors came and said, oh, we've been working with this guy, please give him a break, or whatever, I probably still wouldn't vote to give him a break, but I would listen to all those neighbors' input. This parcel is an iconic parcel. This is the other half of the gateway, the western gateway to the city of Destin. And, we've spent years and millions of dollars trying to build a brand, okay? And people come across that bridge, and the brand they have seen for far too long was that piece of property. And so I'm sure he's upset that we want to charge him that much. I'm upset that he would actually say he shouldn't have to pay that much for what he's done to this community, this fishing village. Stephen, I get my say, and then you get yours. The second thing is you're correct. It's $250 a day. That's not an exorbitant amount. Yes, he had some challenges. Yes, there were some days he may have been in the hospital, or he was grieving, or whatever, and that, I'm sad for that. But that's $250 a day. If we were talking 10 days and he was making efforts, and we're not talking 10 days. We're not even talking 100 days. Okay, so I don't get that. And the final thing, maybe I'm just, a simple guy, but the public record shows that he bought it from Jay Odom on May 31st, 2013 for $660,000, and you just told us that he just sold it for $5 million. I'm just telling you what the public... Okay. So even at 2.4 million, if he sold all 5, I'm just talking about the parcel where the thing was sitting, because that was the only one that was were the other parcels being found? Okay. Now I'm just talking about this parcel. So he okay. how much, you can tell us how much he sold that parcel for. Okay? But he probably sold that parcel that has the 98 frontage, if he broke it out. Maybe he didn't break it out, but if he broke it out, I guarantee you, he sold it for a lot more than $660,000. And so I understand, I feel bad, but I don't feel that bad. And I will never vote to waive this, and I probably won't vote to waive any other ones. Just if there's somebody else out there accruing a lien, you need to get it fixed.
Mr. Destin, any comments? I think Jim, yeah, me too. Listen,
I'm good.
all right, we got a motion, we got a second, but before we vote, I told Mr. Tatum that he would have an opportunity to refute that discussion.
All right, so this is
Good
obviously
luck.
going on deaf ears, but I'm going to say it anyway. Walton County does this on a relatively regular basis, at least a couple, 3 times a year, because of wanting properties to be able to be developed and people to come in and buy them. If Mr. Mercer had not had the money to clean it up, if it had been, let's say, for instance, a trailer park in Defuniak Springs, I'm using this as a real world example because I saw it happen. That trailer park had $200-something thousand in code enforcement fines on it. The code enforcement fines were more than the property's worth. And a developer came in, asked for a reduction so that there was a way to develop the property. So to say that it's a bad idea all the time, that's not a good avenue to take, in my opinion. Now, the amount of fines that were accrued would have stopped the minute that it was abated, or at least the day that it was approved by the city that it had been abated. If it was so important to the city as the gateway, why wasn't it already cleaned up? Why hadn't it already been abated? Now, I'm not saying that it was on you guys to do it, but the fines wouldn't be $282,000 if it had been important enough for it to be abated into 2020 and not waited till 2022. So, I mean, he didn't receive notice in his hands that there was a hearing happening on this property. I mean, it was noticed by statute where you have to post it on the property. That was done. But he didn't know there was a hearing happening. He didn't know there was a lien on the property until they did a title search on it and found the lien. So how was he supposed to know to come take care of it? He's up in Georgia dealing with other much more important issues, not knowing anything was happening in the city of Destin. You know, so that's why it just bugs me. I think $20,000 is more than enough to say, hey, we're sending a message, we're not playing around. $20,000 is a lot of money, people. I mean, it is. And it doesn't matter if it's a millionaire or if it's, you know, me. I mean, it's still a lot of money. And it's still sending the message y'all want to send. It's not the same situation where you're talking about someone who has their grass is too high, or they've got derelict cars and boats in their yard. It's not the same thing. This is a lot different. This was only, you know, it was an easy fix that nobody could get up with Mr. Williams to let him know. You know, y'all could have foreclosed on the property, heck, many years ago, actually, and actually forced it sell. So there's a lot of things that could have happened that didn't happen that put us in the situation where we're at. So I really just do not see the fairness in it. I have one more note. I can't read my writing because I was writing so fast. Oh, you asked the question, and I can't remember if it was you, Johnny, or you, Kevin, but about if this had been done in the past. I don't know if it's been done here, but what I do know is, or I don't know it for a fact, but I don't know that there's anybody else in the city that has $200-something thousand in fines. Maybe there are. Or is it properties that'll ever get cleaned up? Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. You know, this is, like you said, it's the gateway to the city. It's going to get developed in a hopefully reasonable way. I honestly don't know what the plans are. I probably won't be here before you on that. But
if you're lucky.
But anyway, that's my 2 cents worth. And I really do think that you could prove a point, and it doesn't have to be $200,000, and it doesn't have to be $20,000. But there's some middle ground there that's not still in the 6-figure range. Just saying.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we got a motion, we got a vote. Sorry, Bobby, I'm ready to take a vote. It ain't gonna change anything at this point. Okay, let's vote. Vote is unanimous, so moved. Yes. That was part of my plan, because she's been diligently watching all this. So let's go ahead. Do you want to make a motion?
Well, can I summarize kind of what we discussed back there a little bit?
That would be wonderful.
Okay, and she will also be able to weigh in, but what we talked about was the concern from the legal standpoint would be potentially opening the doors to commercial speech in the city right-of-ways and public property. And so what we wanted to talk more about was the government speech versus commercial speech aspect of what's going on. And we just didn't have all of the information before now, although at no fault of the TDC, because she thought she had met with staff. Unfortunately, it just wasn't all of community development as well. So they weren't aware. So we're looking at it now. And what we ultimately agreed to is that we're going to try to find a way to support it for the council if we can. But we would like to come back on July 11th with recommendations after we kind of thoroughly vet the legal stuff.
Okay, and with all that being said, and because of the timeliness of this effort,
well, what we talked about was that if we did find a way to make this work, it wouldn't just be for the last 2 weeks of this summer or the last month of this summer. It would be an ongoing thing to make it worth it for Little Adventures year to year, every year.
right, but these things can be put down and removed. So what
You
I'm
open,
thinking is,
the legal issue is that once you open the door to commercial speech on public property, you can't close it. Then anybody may be able to come in.
precedent setting.
Absolutely.
Hey, well, that's fairly clear, everyone. I think that's what you brought up. Go ahead.
And we're fine with that. We're fine with that. I would rather have the right answer so that we can move forward, and if possible, next summer, you know, maybe we'll still be able to do something this year, but definitely for next summer, if we use the same tactics. So we're fine with that. We appreciate staff's time.
Well, not only that, but Little Adventures, everybody's still in business till the end of October, so if we get the go-ahead, they can leave it up and at least
Sounds
get
good.
some, use of the effort, and Little Adventures can continue, because our tourist season doesn't end really, hardly at all, but.
They're all in cars out there right now
Yep,
because
yep.
it was 55 minutes from our office to here.
So I think that'll be a good deal, and if we get that approval, then they could just leave that stuff for the remainder of our season on into next year, because we'll know what we're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Okay?
So yes, and just to be clear, so staff will not make the ultimate approval. We'll take it back to council on July 11th, but we'll be able to tell you what our recommendation is.
You guys good with that? Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we came up with a solution. Thanks, Kim. Thanks, staff. Thanks, council. Announcements.
Thank you, sir. Several quick announcements and updates. First up, I want to turn this over to Crystal for an update on the budget hearings. As we had a discussion at the previous council meeting as to when we would start the budget hearing number one.
Okay, so I did talk to the Florida Department of Revenue today just to confirm, but they basically said you can have the public hearings anytime after 5 p.m. For example, we could set it for 5:01 p.m., but what I would recommend to this council is that we set the meeting for 5:30 p.m. on that Thursday, September 8th, and then just roll right on into the regular council meeting, because that's the council meeting date that's set for the first week in September as well.
Is that the first budget hearing?
That's correct. That's the first budget hearing.
So that would be where we would set the millage?
That would be where we set the tentative, well, we're going to talk about the millage, and I have to certify it to the property appraiser at the August 1st meeting.
Right.
That needs to be to them by the August 4th. And then September 8th is the first public hearing where we adopt the tentative rate. And then 2 weeks later, within 10 days, we adopt the final. And we're going to have, I'm highly going to recommend that we have budget workshop number 3 in July that's proposed. We'll be talking about that Thursday evening at budget workshop number 2, just because I know several key council members won't be available at the Thursday budget workshop on capital projects. So I'm going to recommend that we go forward and do the July workshop. And then we also have individual meetings with council members scheduled for the end of July to review the budget in its entirety.
Lance, could you make sure that every council member and me gets the list of budget hearing and workshops? Just so we're not trying to put them in our phone now, Mr. Destin?
Of course, I raised a question at the last meeting about 30 minutes to adopt the budget. Is that the answer to that question, or is this the answer to that question?
Well, basically, at the budget hearing, we're adopting the millage rate and the ordinance, but all of the groundwork, all of the review, everything else should have been worked out before that point.
Of course, my question was, at what point in that review and groundwork, which were mostly workshops, does the council actually vote and have the ability to change anything?
August 1st.
And that is a 30-minute window?
No, August 1st is a regular council meeting.
Okay, so it will be at the regular council meeting?
That's correct.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, sir. Up next, I was going to turn it over to Ray to give an update to council on the Destin Youth Council appointments and the process for getting that up and running this year.
Yeah, we are once again accepting application for the Destin Youth Council, and that's been advertised online, and it's going to be scheduled to be advertised in the newspaper this week. Usually you appoint members in July, and then the initial meeting in August for the Youth Council. Since we only have one meeting in July, that's July 11th, and you have a very early August meeting, August 1st, we're going to ask you to appoint the members on August 1st. Their meeting is still going to be in August. That's not going to be delayed. We're hoping that we'll have at least 14 applicants because we can appoint up to 14 members. So.
Thank you, Ray, for doing it, or whoever, staff and all of that. I mean, I think that's an amazing organization and committee that is very important to this city, to have the young youth stakeholders to start the process of learning what we do up here and volunteering and giving time. And so thank you and whoever else that is working on that. And I really hope that we see all those applicants, and I'll continue to try to spread the word. So thank you.
Next up, I've got Mr. Kozad, who would like to give an update on a grant that he's just about finished up the application on. And Jeff, could you tell him where you're going with that?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. We are requesting that DEP's Office of Resilience and Coastal Protection provide a grant in the amount of $70,000 for the city to undertake a vulnerability assessment. Vulnerability assessment will evaluate the impacts of sea level rise and rainfall on critical assets and identify potential mitigation and adaptation strategies to protect them. We believe we can use the results of this assessment to help secure additional funding to implement some of these recommended adaptation strategies. And this will probably tie into our undergrounding efforts. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeff. As mentioned by Ms. Strickland, we do have a workshop this Thursday, June 23rd, in this room at 5:30. On Tuesday, June the 28th at 5:30, we have a workshop regarding the LDC in this room. And then a reminder that on July 4th, because we will not meet again until after that, that the offices will be closed and the City of Destin fireworks will take place as usual at 9 o'clock that evening. Best place to view is on the harbor or overlooking East Pass. So on the 30th of June, the city's annual bike parade and family day will be held at the Destin Elementary School. So we hope to see all the kids out there with their bikes, wagons, and trikes decorated and see them run the race around the track out there. And finally, well, I think that's it. That's my last one.
All right, thank you. We're going to take a 5-minute break. We're going to go ahead and start the meeting. If my council members will take a seat. Where's Kev? Nope, he's back there.
Come on, Kevin. Hurry, Kevin, I'm on jet lag.
That's your fault.
I know.
We got spoiled with that.
I'm leaving.
We got spoiled with that 7:05 meeting.
I'm leaving at 9.
No. All right. Thank you, sir. Let's call this thing back together. Now, what we have up next, you're done with your announcements, correct? We have public hearing, Gilligan's Boat Works, a major development order, 21-37-SP. Kyle, take it away.
Thanks, Mayor. As you stated, this is Gilligan's Boat Works. If any member of staff who plans on testifying, and also the applicant and any member of the applicant's team plans on testifying, could please stand and raise their right hand. I'll swear you in. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide is the truth? All right. And now we'll go down the line and see if there's been any ex parte communication, starting with Mr. Schmidt.
No, there has not.
No, sir.
No communication.
No communication.
No.
None.
No communication.
Thanks, and we'll turn it over to Ms. Kopp.
Okay, Mr. Butler is going to provide the staff report to the city, but I'd like to enter it into the record as City's Exhibit A.
And as the applicant, do you have any objection to that entry into the record? None.
Good evening. Thanks, Kyle. Good evening, Council and Mayor. This evening, we are reviewing Gilligan's Boat Works, major development order submittal. Mr. Ed Stanford of Core Engineering and Consulting, on behalf of ABC Amusement Company, is requesting approval for a major development order. The project is located at 531 Mountain, with a property totaling approximately 0.9 acres. The applicant is proposing approximately 2,000 square foot boat maintenance, repair, and storage facility, along with the associated site infrastructure. The property has a future land use map designation of commercial trades and services, as well as a zoning designation of commercial trades and services. Boat and motorcycle repair is an appropriate use within the CTS future land use designation and a permitted use within the CTS zoning district. As proposed, the project does meet the dimensional requirements such as setbacks, open space, building height, etc. It is worth noting that the required 10-foot public sidewalk is proposed to be completely constructed within the private property per LDC 8.0903A6A. A public sidewalk easement shall be required prior to the issuance of any CO, certificate of occupancy, or completion. The intent of this design was to mitigate the impact of generated stormwater runoff within the city right-of-way. Regarding parking, the applicant submitted a variance request application to allow for the proposed development to implement 24 parking spaces, which would be 20 above the maximum allowed per LDC Article 8. The BOA approved such variance requests at the regularly scheduled meeting on December 8th, 2021. The city city manager stormwater designee approved the stormwater plan on June 13th under the condition that during construction, the contractor and engineer shall field verify stormwater management system piping and structures within the Mountain Drive right-of-way. The contractor and the engineer shall contact and coordinate with City of Destin Community Development Engineering Division to confirm existing conditions and adjust the detail as necessary for the relocation of the existing domed inlet. This does further the link to our strategic goal of economic and development and revitalization within the city. And lastly, staff recommends that the City Council approve Gilligan's Boat Works, a major development order as presented, sorry. And then I, as well as Mr. Stanford, are here this evening to answer any questions that you may have.
Mr. Sanford, would you like to make any comments before we start going before the council members? And we'll probably call you up for a question or two afterwards.
Sure.
Go ahead.
This is a relatively simple project. I just put that in quotes. So Gilligan's has a boat rental on the harbor, and during the off-season, he does a lot of his maintenance on that property. What he's attempting to do here, for the most part, is to bring that maintenance off of 98 and be able to enhance that property a little bit more, to be in the character of the harbor and utilize this property as his maintenance property in the off-season, store boats in the off-season. You know the drill. There'll be a fence around it, privacy fence, so you won't be able to see some of these things that are going on, and probably be an overall enhancement to, to 98 at least.
All right.
I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Sure. I'll call you back up if need be. Ms. Aber.
I move that the city council approve Gilligan's Boat Works, a major development order.
Second.
All right.
Could just open it up to the public at some point too, before.
Oh,
we
yeah,
vote.
yeah. We'll go ahead and do that now, before we have any discussion at the council level. At this particular point, this is a public hearing, and I will open up the public comment portion of the public hearing. Is there anybody that wants to come to the microphone and speak on this project? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public comment period of this public hearing, and we'll start with Mr. Wagner.
I have no problem with it. I'm going to be voting yes because that's what our code says. I would love for us to start having a visioning session of what we want Mountain Drive to look like. It's turning into a pontoon maintenance world, which is by our laws, and they need the space, so it's not their fault. So I'm going to be voting yes for this, but also I think we should really take a look at a portion of Mountain Drive and see if we can make that something walkable and commercial for our residents and for our guests that come visit. I know it falls on. I don't think it falls under one of our statements of a economic, but yeah, I think it's nothing against this. I just think we should really start thinking about what we want Mountain Drive to look like in the future.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you, appreciate it. What parking, do we allow the stack parking, valet parking or stack parking or whatever it's called? We do it some places.
Valet parking is allowed.
Right there. So would they, there's 24 parking spaces, is that right? So in theory, they could put 48 cars in there? Or I don't know.
48 cars?
Stack, I don't know. Do you
20.
multiply that by
Oh,
two?
no. So if you're stacking cars, you would have to have the space for that. These are specifically 9 by 19 spaces, so
Gotcha.
you can only legally fit one car in there.
And if there's potential for shuttling, are we able to, I'm not sure what kind of shuttle would be used if that was discussed, but is Benning and 98 allowable for LSVs to cross 98? Do we know if that particular intersection is?
So it's not shuttling, it's valet. So the customers would be dropped off at the harbor property, or they would go to the harbor property with their vehicle, and then a staff member from the business would take the car over to this mountain property. That's what valet is.
Got it.
So a shuttle service is
Right.
something completely different, but a valet would you go to the property,
No, I understand
staff member
that.
takes. So
Okay, I was told, heard the word shuttle, and so I apologize, but it talks about valet in this particular
Correct.
thing. Okay, I just didn't hear that. I apologize. Thank you so much. And yeah, I mean, anything to alleviate parking and things like that, that's great on Mr. Abady, or I'm sorry if that was, the name was listed on here, but thank you.
Mr. Bagby.
Thank you. My question's on the parking also. Does it allow them to lease those parking spots?
At this point, I'm not sure if pay-to-park is allowed there, but that was not discussed between the applicant and staff.
So that would be an additional use to the property that was not discussed for the DO. But there are shared parking agreements that would be allowed that would need to be approved through staff.
If council wants to disallow that, then we could, you could make it a condition of the approval. And I don't know if the applicant has a position on that.
Do you have a position on that?
Mr. Abady's here, but the intention here is to serve his own property. So his
And
his
that's fine.
employees and the valet parking and the boat maintenance are his focus today. And I think any other lease outside of that is extracurricular, right? Or would you
Come
like
on
to
up,
allow
Mike.
lease?
Yeah.
No one can answer this question better than you. Name, address, same old, same.
Mike Abady. The initial intent, when I went before the board, the variance board, was to get some extra parking for my restaurant and my water sports business.
Right.
okay, because it meets all the other code requirements. When we went through the process, because there's not proper sidewalks to get, for me to use that for customer parking at this time, the city has, we negotiated where we can use it for, I could always use it for employee parking, but now I can also use it for valet parking, which would eliminate the need for that sidewalk. Whenever the neighbors, whoever bought that property, develops that property, and the city requires them to put in a proper sidewalking, or if I decide down the road that I want to pay for that extra sidewalking and put the sidewalking to get to Benning Drive, which would give me access all the way to Highway 98, crossing at the light, then I would use that for regular customer, additional customer parking, and it wouldn't have to be valet. But in the interim, we're going to use it for valet because that's what it's going to be legal for. That meets the codes.
Well, I just know that we've made a concerted effort in the wintertime to not have boat maintenance yards on Highway 98, and you've stepped up to the plate and spent a heck of a lot of money to correct that issue for your
Thank you for
particular
appreciating
project.
that.
So I appreciate that aspect of it.
And to make it financially feasible, the extra parking helps me on the financial end of it.
Mr. Destin, you have any questions while we got him up? Yes, then Jim, I'll let you go second.
I do.
Oh.
The variance that was granted by the Board of Adjustment, that was to the distance, or is it?
No, that was because there's a maximum on the number of parking spaces
Okay,
under the
okay.
MMTD.
So what is the rule on your parking for your employees? How close does it have to be to your business establishment, or is there a rule?
1,200 feet, sir, door to door.
That's correct, 1,200 feet.
Okay, so, I commend Mr. Abbey because actually what he's doing is providing the parking that the city promised they'd provide when they built the Harbor Walk, which has not happened.
Thank you.
So, we're fixing that problem, and the more parking that we can provide, the better it is for the situation, because we don't have enough.
And may I recommend that the codes right now, if you're south of Mountain Drive, parking can count. If you're north of Mountain Drive, it can't count. So when y'all do y'all reevaluation of, y'all know y'all meeting to redo your city codes and amendments and stuff, you may consider to allow north of Mountain Drive to be considered for harbor parking. So people won't have to go before the variance board again.
And just to clarify, and maybe staff can help me, you talked about you're not going to use this for your customers because the sidewalks are not adequate?
I have to put a 10-foot sidewalk in front of mine, but my neighbors aren't developed yet. When they develop, they're going to have to put in sidewalks. Soon as I can get a continual sidewalk from my property to the crosswalks at Benning by the roundabout, then I have full access to get my customers. My customers can park themselves and walk.
Let me just clarify, you need to put the 10-foot sidewalk on the north side of Mountain?
Can I clarify?
I have to put it,
Can I clarify?
ahead,
So
sir.
to utilize the shared parking in the land development code, you have to have continuous pedestrian facilities all the way to the location to which they're going. So right now, there's not a continuous sidewalk, so the most feasible route for him would be to go east by the old house that was on the corner of Benning, and then south through the crosswalk and all the way south through Harbor. So he's just missing that one sidewalk connection directly
Is
east.
there room in that right of way for you to put a sidewalk? No. And so where would you put the sidewalk, on your property?
my sidewalk is going to be right off Mountain.
I got that part. The right of way, see, I was here when the CRA, let me put the parameters around this question. Sure. When we built that road under the CRA, we moved the entire roadway to the north so that we could put all of our sidewalks on the south. When we did that, we preempted a sidewalk on the north side unless people want to put it on their own property. So how do we get around that problem?
This is a great question. I'm glad you're bringing it up because this really cost us about 6 months of additional review.
Yes.
What we ended up doing, because we couldn't fit the sidewalk in the right of way and we didn't have as-built drawings for the stormwater system underneath in that right of way, we ended up pushing that sidewalk onto Mr. Abdi's property completely. So in hopes that there would be a plan developed for the remainder of Mountain Drive, because it's getting developed in a very piecemeal fashion. But if there's no intention to put a 10-foot sidewalk there, then we really don't want to put a sidewalk there if we don't have to.
Well, the question is, how can the city compel you to put a 10-foot sidewalk on your own property and not on the right-of-way that's not there? They have a legal term for that. It's called an extraction or taking.
Taking?
And so, staff, we need to figure that dilemma out. But
In the interim, you don't have to.
you don't have to, because that's a problem for in the future.
Well, this is a good point for the record, though, is that if we don't need to build a sidewalk today, or if we can even bond out that sidewalk, then we would rather do that than have a sidewalk to nowhere. And one, it becomes a maintenance issue, an eyesore, et cetera, et cetera. So, and this is not necessarily staff's issues, this is a historical issue that may be lost a lot in translation over the last 10 or 15 years since
And it is, and
Mountain
if
Drive
you'll
got
notice,
done.
there are several sidewalk sections to nowhere along the north side of Mountain Drive because of that very reason.
Well, we moved it out because and as part of the conditional approval, because we didn't have as-built drawings, and there's a stormwater inlet that aligns with, there's a lot of utilities up there, and we had to dodge them. And part of that was putting a driveway into a inlet, but then I figured out kind of how things were really designed, and we agree to, when we uncover whatever's down there, that we'll adjust it as necessary to protect the city's infrastructure and intention for that stormwater management system. But absolutely, we agree with you on this sidewalk question, because there's not enough continuity along the north side. And now I hear this, I'm like, yeah, that makes perfect sense, that everything was shifted to the south.
The reason those utilities are on the north side is because when we moved the road, we put them all on the north side. Now, it would behove Mr. Abbey and any of those other owners that want to tie into the sidewalk to put their sidewalk in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think that it's a great problem as long as the city is willing to work with the folks on the north side of Mountain.
There you go.
Because it benefits them to have the sidewalk there too. But it's going to be a little complicated.
Well, and that was our concern, is that if Mr. Abity pushes the sidewalk on his property, will the folks to the east and west of him do the same? Or are they going to be mandated to do those things? Or is this something that's a lot of, to do about nothing? We're open, but at the end of the day, if it's something that we can hold out until things get filled in, then I think that's a smart way to do it. I mean, unless Mr. Abdi just says, yeah, let's go put in that 10-foot, 100-foot sidewalk.
Yeah.
Thank you. It may well be the compromise is 6 feet instead of 10 feet. There's something we can come with and work with the city. Because I noticed some of those other sidewalks that don't go anywhere, they're not 10 feet.
Well, it looks like a problem for community development in our code as we're rewriting code. So hopefully we can address that and answer some of their questions and future developments along the Mountain Drive. I'm with Bobby, though. Having a commercial industrial complex on Mountain Drive was cool in 1970 and 1980. But having that now in the Harbor District, gosh, I wish we could do something different. But right now, under the law, and what you're trying to do is good intentions, and that's where we're at in 2022. And if there's going to be any catastrophic changes or innovative ideas 5 years or 10 years from now, maybe you can make a good profit on your investment.
And we in fact have changed that within the year to allow eating establishments and a number of other uses that weren't allowed on Mountain Drive. We changed that within the.
Yeah, if I was the Mountain Drive czar, I'd get a D9 bulldozer from Benning Drive all the way to Seibert, and I would correct that historical participation down there of an industrial complex. But I'm not the czar, and Mr. Aberdeen has done the right thing with what we were trying to get done as far as cleaning up Highway 98 corridor, in the new view corridor. So I applaud you that, and I hope the council will approve your project. Yes, you can, and we have Jim.
No, I wasn't done, and it was like, you just went to doing, and I was.
Well, I'm just such a mean mayor today.
You are, man.
But, so I'm going to give you the floor, but wait, because I saw 2 or 3 staff members over there sending smoke signals. They
Okay,
want to
go
talk.
ahead.
And then you can have it until you're done. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, guys.
All right, so per the LDC, sidewalks are required on both sides. This is a collector street, so sidewalks are required on both sides of the street. Per 80503 sidewalk specifications, A, external developments abutting public or private rights-of-way shall provide sidewalks running the full length of any roadway frontage directly adjacent to the sidewalk. However, where it is not possible to construct the sidewalk within the right-of-way, either wholly or in part, the entire sidewalk or remaining portion thereof shall be constructed on the subject property. And then there's language that says an easement is required.
Thank you for that clarification.
So we can clarify the clarification, does that apply to CRA districts?
So this is the first time I've heard of anything like this, so I will have to look into something like that. But as far as the staff's review, we deal with the LDC, and that's what we reviewed for this specific project. So I think Lewis has.
Yeah, I saw Lewis's red light. So
Right.
Go ahead, sir.
And I think, I don't know whether it was Councilmember Destin or Bagby that indicated that this is something I think it was you actually, that this is something we're going to be reviewing in the LDC update. I have always said we ought to be consistent with all the plans, including the CRA plans and so on. And there are cases like this where we got conflicts, and we're going to be cleaning all that up so that everything is consistent.
That's the beauty of it, and that's why we're so glad you're going to be doing it. You have the floor.
Thank you. Because I would like to, because we've all been here long enough to know no good deed goes unpunished, and what you intend to use those 24 parking spots for, I agree. And I know that's what you are going to use them for your business, for your restaurant. What I don't want, because there is a residential both to your east and to your north, is that then gets leased out at some point by some future owner, who then it becomes a revolving 3 o'clock in the morning parking lot where cars are shuttling, not valeting, but actually shuttling in and out. So I would ask that we approve this, but that we put a requirement or a restriction on it that it not be allowed to be either sublet or when you have two business entities using shared parking. Thank you. It's after 9 o'clock, I don't function. Okay. Because I don't want to see some future use where it's being used other than what you're intending for it to be used for, because that is not allowed without him coming back, right? So.
Correct.
So I would like to just limit that now up front. That's the main thing I had.
Just to speak to that real quick, I want to make it clear that Mr. Abity has 2 businesses that reside on one parcel right now, and the intention is to use this parking area for both businesses at different times, mostly in the evenings for the restaurant, and yeah, mostly.
Sir?
Restaurant closes at 9 o'clock. But also, I have plans in the future that I'm working on right now. I have engineers working on to add some more docks, okay? And to add more docks, I can use it, I want to be able to use that parking for the boats that if I rent out, it's not for water sports, it's to rent boat slips out to the public. So if I rent a boat slip out, it needs 2 spaces, I'd like.
But it's going to be daytime
I'd like to be able to
operations.
use those off-site spaces for my businesses.
Yeah, but that's a daytime operation. I think what Mr. Bagby
Correct.
was talking about was, a nightclub type
No,
stuff.
we close at 9. Understand.
I'm worried about the next owners, and I'm worried about, I don't even think you have,
Nightclubs that open till 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, understand.
Well, I think your point was well taken with our staff and our attorney.
And like we said, though, that would still come back to council anyway, you know, and I'm recognizing that they're saying they don't have a problem with your own uses, but when your docks come, that's another separate application. So you deal with the parking then.
There we go. Thanks, guys. All right, we have a motion, we have a second.
Do we? Yeah.
Yep. Let's vote. Yeah, Teresa made a motion to accept the project. Ayes have it, unanimous. Thanks, Mr. Aberdeen. Thank you, sir. Okay, bye. Miss Abear's got to go. She has a flight to catch, I think, or you just want to go to bed? Well, if our individual council members, and myself included, don't get too long-winded, we'll be getting out of here pretty soon. So, Bobby, I'm going to start with you, and you got things on your list.
I'll keep it quick. I'll start with the second one. Everyone should attend the IEMO 1, 2, and above. It was way more than I thought it was going to be. The Florida League of Cities is amazing, and there's a huge resource there from contextual stuff to just meeting other people. And I think kind of the duh moment I had is, you know, we can't talk because of Sunshine Law, but there's hundreds of other council people across the state that kind of deal with, you know, similar issues in their own way, so you can talk to all of them. So I think that was my biggest takeaway. I was like, oh, duh, you can talk to other council people. So that and just being a part of that was amazing. So to Councilman Bagby's recommendation, I now second that. It was awesome. And then for the fleet management plan, one thing that came out of the Florida League of Cities was this recommendation, and just, you know, check it out where, whether it's Enterprise or this other third-party company, you know, most people in the Public Works Division don't sign up for the job to become a used car salesman. So to outsource this and to put it on the plate of a third party like a major car fleet rental and purchasing organization, there's a document in there that I put in there, and really just looking for a motion to consult further with staff and to really bring back a plan. Right now, the preliminaries with us just going through, getting all the vehicle registrations, mileage, and just kind of getting that data list together. Enterprise is averaging about $100,000 a year saving for us. That's with us buying at governmental rates, as well as being able to sell those vehicles in a 3 to 5 year plan. That gives us the most bang for our buck. So instead of running things into the ground, you can buy them at a government rate, and while they're still at a high appreciation rate, be able to sell them, and that's off our hands. It's a turnkey solution. We don't do anything. That fee's baked into that net profit. I'm not an endorsement for them, but it seems like a incredible win-win-win all around. So just wanted to get some direction and see if we can really put some teeth in this and see if it's a really good fit for us or not.
You don't have to ask for a motion.
Yeah,
You
so
can make one.
I'll make a motion to direct staff to look into a fleet management plan with Enterprise, and to bring back details to council on how the exacts, the facts and the profits work out.
Second.
All right, I got a motion and a second. I have a question directed to staff is, how are, or maybe Lance, you can answer this, you're the big boss. How are we handling fleet management with our public's work today?
We have a schedule of replacement that we try to stick to, but depending on how healthy the city is financially, we've had to modify that at times. When times were tough, we didn't replace as our schedule said we should. I think right now we're up to date, so. And Michael?
Yeah, that's correct, Mr. City Manager. During fiscal years 13 and 14 and 15, the city didn't purchase any vehicles. So we are kind of entering, coming up on that 10-year anniversary of those fiscal years. We don't really have that many replacement vehicles allocated for the upcoming budgets, or we shouldn't. However, once they get past 3 years old, They're no longer under warranty, and any kind of catastrophic powertrain issue, engine transmission or something like that, can basically, once it gets far enough, as Bobby was referring, is down that decay curve where it's not worth repairing, we have to replace it.
So.
And that's happened a couple of times in the past couple of years.
So what Bobby's recommending is I guess you'd have to put out an RFP, to look into utilizing this type of service. But what you're talking about, Bobby, is it's a cost-effective, it's a more efficient way for us to manage our fleets that takes, I would assume, the burden off of our city manager and our public works director. Is that right?
Correct, yep. Yeah, they'd just be working with a third party to then facilitate and just really chronologicalize just the fleet that we have and when things need to be pulled and replaced. And using a larger company of any kind would give us the bigger buying pool than us putting it in the paper and, putting it into just what we have as reach for selling our vehicles.
Mr. Mayor, if I could add one other thing, what I'd like to do too, and Enterprise does provide some of this on their website, but some of their customers, just kind of interviewing them to see what their experience has been in this environment, because it is a relatively new way of doing business. But just to see if, if the juice was worth the squeeze in the long term, or if it was just a bad idea or somewhere in between.
All right, Mr. Bagby, then Mr.
Yeah,
Destin.
Just so I'm clear, I don't have a problem with you and staff, doing research on this. And I heard you say Enterprise or another person.
For the sake of the RFP,
Right,
then working
yeah,
with Enterprise.
I don't want to narrow it down to just Enterprise because, so I would just make sure the staff understands we want to look at fleet maintenance, fleet swap out, some fleet management program. Yes, I'm all for that. It might save us money, it might not, but I didn't want to get pinholed into Enterprise.
Yeah, so basically you can alter your motion, just say.
Yeah, I'll substitute it.
Looking into the fleet maintenance programs available, and then put that out for RFP if the council so chooses to go down that route.
Yep.
Along those lines. Mr. Destin.
Well, that was my point exactly.
I think city manager was all over that, and so is our city attorney. All right, well, we do have a motion to look into the fleet management programs offered by companies out there, and a second. So let's take this to a vote. Ayes have it, votes unanimous, so moved. Is that it, Bobby, you good? All right, Mr. Destin. Mr. Bagby.
And I did want to give Bobby a shout out for taking the time and the energy and going over to St. Augustine or Jacksonville, yeah. The next three, there's one, I believe, in October down in Fort Myers, then in November in Tampa, both great places to go. And then I think the next one is in St. Augustine in January up north, if you don't want to drive down to Tampa. The only thing, I'll talk to staff, the other things, Miss Crystal and I were not able to get up on our change to a procurement policy, but she has guaranteed me it will be in your read-ahead packet for the next meeting, and we will discuss it, even if she has to hand-deliver it to you. That's what she said, I think.
And last thing, if you guys want to look at it, this is the book we went out of and the syllabus for everything. So if you're interested, I brought the packet along.
Thanks, sir. Jim, you good? All right. Ms. Aber had to leave. Mr. King.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I didn't have anything for tonight, but I just wanted to say, excuse me, I think the Destin High School baseball field deal, I felt pretty sure about it going into the Coach Dorn's presentation, and was kind of swayed back and forth. And this is one of the problems I find with sunshine laws is I have no idea we have no idea what anybody else is thinking, and going into that conversation and kind of getting swayed back and forth. And it weighed heavy on me, the public comment about it. I think it would be it may be troublesome, but if there's a way to work with the city and to share that field, I think that's kind of the route that I would go. I think it's a really important thing to have a field that close, and just in kind of earlier looking and then looking during the meeting, there's no accessibility, there's no other place that makes any sense like Morgan's does. So I apologize that my support wavered. There's been maybe 2 other times since I've sat in this seat that something was this heavy to me. So I appreciate y'all. Just want to let you know that's where my head is with it now. Thank you.
Mr. Schmidt.
Appreciate it. A few things. We got a list sent to us, a very detailed, lengthy list of potential code violations or allegations or something about livery vessels and bareback charters and that whole thing, that we're always fighting with pontoons and all that stuff. Does each one of those need to be submitted to officially get it on record and track it? Would that be helpful to, rather than just sending an email to us, and I assume to maybe Mr. Sullivan, but should we have the gentleman that did that and even other citizens that like to really help and keep us informed, should we have them just put it online instead? Would that be better for staff?
I personally think it would be better. It guarantees that it's in the system and that there will be follow-up, because when you use that system, the complaint system or idea system that's on our website, it triggers emails to different individuals depending on what the topic is. And there's always a closeout section of that where the originator gets the final callback to say this is what has happened. And so for that, because there's so many things going back and forth, for me, I would say yes, but it's selfish because it helps everyone remember that they need to go close it out with these individuals.
We've gotten inundated with emails from citizens about lots of stuff before, and lately we get code violations and potential code violations or comments and things like that, and I can only imagine your email inbox and code and everybody else's is full with a lot of stuff as well. So while I appreciate and encourage citizens to do what they're doing, it might take more time, but it might be best rather than saying, Lance, why didn't y'all get all that? Well, it was an email, which I get, you oversight, you forget sometimes or just miss it. So because I would love to use Compass or whatever program it is that takes those violations. I would like to use it as it is, and so that way the citizens can submit their complaint, and then we can also hold you and everybody else accountable for why didn't you follow up on it and things like that, rather than unfortunately missing an email. So just food for thought for people out there that want to send us stuff. Thank you for emailing. But yeah.
Can I follow up on that real quick? Because
sure.
Eventually what we would like to do is move towards a true 311 system where those complaints are being called in and they're automatically converted into a folder in our system so that it's already in the system when he receives it. So he's just got to follow up on it. And we're not quite there yet. We're getting closer, but that's where we want to end up.
Councilman Schmidt, just a reference on what you're talking about. I know when they enter complaints in through the system, it does prompt to the code office, and so it lets us know what the complaint is, what it goes, and we do investigate when it comes out, and we make sure we annotate it in the case that we went out there, we investigated. If we're able to find it, we address the situation. Of course, if it's gone by the time, we use that information that's with us so we can add it into the case, so we can build the case with any of these problems.
Thank you. I know there's business owners and people that maybe they're thinking, well, I don't want to file a complaint or something because of my name, but ultimately, if they're sending you a text message or sending you an email, they're filing a complaint and public records request, so it's theoretically the same thing, ultimately, and I think the streamlining process would be better for you guys and our staff to have it in our system rather than, I'm not saying you're ignoring the emails, and I don't think you are, but it's a lot, and I just encourage people to use the process. So.
And I appreciate you bringing that up.
Sure.
And I support it.
Sure.
I do want to remind the public who's out there watching that state statute was recently revised. 162 was revised to say that if you want something to be looked at by a code enforcement officer, you have to provide your name and address. And otherwise, we are not to initiate action on that item. So I just need people to know that. So that what you're asking them to do would take care of that.
Sure. Awesome. Thank you. I said in the past about I was going to be working with, or requesting maybe, about shared parking plans, and I was still looking into doing something like that. On top of that, I spoke with staff, brought up some things today, and what's another important thing to me that we try to work with staff on and attorneys is the business operations that are just popping up on landowners' parcels, pop-up businesses, whatever you want to call it, where, well, I mean, I'm not saying they're all illegal. I'm just saying we need a process to, the answer sometimes is, well, yeah, they should have a change of use or get a BTR. Well, they don't do it. And next thing you know, they're there for 3 months, and then 6 months, and 9 months, and then 12 months. And it's just the new norm. Hey, let's go to that new shop down there. It's over there by the boat rental place. Well, was it even allowed to be there in the first place? A way to help catch and to inform people, right? If I want to go start a coffee shop, I might be thinking I'm doing it right because the guy I'm renting the spot from told me I can do it. Well, it might not be right, and now that new business owner or leasee who should have been responsible for finding this out, is going to get screwed in the end. So, just another item that I'm hoping to work on. I have on here Morgan Sports Center Capital Project. Right, a lot of talk about Morgan Sports Center tonight. So, didn't know that all this was going to be going on. So it's all good. But Morgan Sports Center needs. It needs some updates. It hasn't been touched really. I know it's been touched. Ryan and them touch it every single day, and they do an amazing job at what they're doing. If you haven't been out there recently, I would encourage you to go walk around and look up at the building, look up around, look at the fences, look at the bleachers that aren't there anymore. It needs some touch-ups. I've been traveling around, as we talked about recently, at other parks. Frank Brown at Panama City Beach. Dothan has a facility. And yes, they're starting from scratch and today, and they're building these magnificent facilities. And I get that we might not have that. But we have the bones and the structure over here at Morgan's to update it and improve it and work on it. And Lisa and staff said that there's already things in the budget and the plan that are coming that are going to allow them to make some improvements, which is a great start. But I truly feel like a long-term project at Morgan's is to take a full look at it to upgrade. One thing I've mentioned in the past, or maybe in their meetings, is real turf. Yeah, it's expensive, but the long-term cost savings by putting in real turf rather than grass, it's what a lot of people are doing now to alleviate long-term costs and replacing turf, because now we're going to have to replace the sod. The sod needs to be replaced. It's never all been replaced. So there's a lot of project. It ain't cheap. No, it's not. But, we bring a lot of people to that park, visitors, our residents use it. I know there's the bathroom talk is possibly going to come on the west side with the current project. That's great, but I won't be here on Thursday, so that's one of the reasons why I'm bringing it up is that, I don't know if there will be discussions on Thursday, and I know we can discuss it at another meeting as well, but, it's I hope that there's a priority is to look at that facility and hopefully figure out a way to, continue to upgrading and improving it. We have a problem in our city for recreational sites for our children and the youth, and even the adults, because they use it too. We know community center is one gym, and it's dilapidated, and it's falling apart, and we wish we could have a bigger one, and maybe that will happen one day, but maybe it won't. But what we do have is that complex that we can hopefully try to make it better for everybody.
Kevin, do you have a monetary figure that you're thinking in your mind for budgetary discussions? Is it going to be a budget workshop?
I don't, well, I did, but honestly, after speaking with staff, they said what the request is right now in their budget is what they're wanting to do right now for this year. So in my mind, that was okay for me, because the things that they are wanting to do are hopefully going to be approved, and they're okay with that. So, that's why I'm not, looking at doing anything with that at this point. And then last thing, and I won't harp on it for too long, and, I know Johnny said something, is, I truly feel like the presentation that was given tonight from some people was taken out of context, or comments that were made or heard or whatever. I don't know what all happened, but at the end of the night, I heard a request to work with us to see if we can put a high school field at Morgan's. Not to ask us tonight to go out there with shovels and bulldozers tomorrow and build them one. Not to just give them the keys and say, here's your new field and we don't need to ever use it again. Just to work with us and our staff to use Morgan's. The stakeholders at the high school, the athletic director, a lot of people in this room, which are our constituents. Sure, some of them live in Kelly Plantation, so they're not in the city. I get that. If that's some people's comments and thoughts, whatever. But we talk about people showing up and asking and talking to us, and they're here. They were here tonight wanting to work with us to build them, to work with them to figure out a way to use that field. And what we did was say, hey, we'll work with you and the school board, the school district, and find somewhere else for you to go. That wasn't their even ask. They asked us for something, and sure, we don't have to give it to them. But again, it wasn't give us the field and just walk away like, I think that's what Rodney said, but it's just, I know that even if it worked out, I know that it would create conflicts for scheduling. I get it. My kids play soccer on a baseball field. Some of these parents that were here tonight, their kids probably use that field for a fall or a winter sport. So they probably realize that they might not be able, I don't know. There's 100 possibilities of issues that could come from it, but all we were trying to do is just see if we can make it happen with no cost to us. There was no request. So, I hope it's not the end of it. And I also hope that staff, and I know the direct motion was to do a certain specific thing, and I don't know the legalities of what all they can talk about in those meetings. If we directed them to go find a place at the elementary school, maybe in that meeting they talk about other options as well at Morgan's. I don't know if that's allowed based on your motion. I'm not directing them to do that at all. Huh? I don't know. I'll have to bring that up on another night, unfortunately. But my hope is that our staff, with the motion that Mr. Destin made, will keep an open mind into working with the high school, I hope, just to see if we can make it happen. And sacrifices will have to be made. And I know I've been long-winded, but that's what we're here for.
Thank you, sir.
Right.
Lockwood, that's a spray field where Morgan's is located. Could you please for the public record, tell us the deal that was made with the city with Destin Water's users for that field?
Yes, Lockwood Warnett, 10 Country Club Drive. I'm here tonight as a representative of Destin Water users. The land in question where the softball fields and the soccer fields are located is land that is owned by Destin water users. There was an agreement that was struck in 1998 where the underground, Destin water users has an underground disposal and then surface spray that helps irrigate the fields. The lease agreement allows the city of Destin to set improvements on that property, and those improvements are the Morgan Sports Complex. The lease was renewed in 2004 for 38 years, so the termination date right now is about 2042. I read the contract right this morning. Trying to go off memory, and it's been long enough I forgot. But we, at Destin Water Users, we are agreeable to considering it, but we'd like to be at the table because we do have facilities that are underground, and we also have 3 reuse, sewer and a water line that run right by the left field foul pole. They're 12 inches in diameter each, so a lot of infrastructure in the ground that we'd like to make sure is.
And one of the key things in that lease and the use of that property, unfortunately, when it comes to the artificial turf, is those sprinklers need to spray, correct?
The sprinklers do need to spray. That is part of our disposal.
Okay.
Yeah, and I appreciate Mr. Rournette, and I don't think even the high school was asking for an artificial.
No.
That was just my comment about
Nope.
the entire facility, and sounds like you can't do
No,
it, and so thank you. But they also said that, from what I took from their presentation, I'm not sure if you, I know it's been a while now, a few hours, but there was no plan right now in the tonight about building further, expanding, widening, and things like that. So if we ever get the chance, I appreciate that you're willing to talk to them. That's
Yeah.
very.
And there is a little bit, they're shifting the infield, pushing that out,
just
getting some
grass.
additional separation, moving the clay. So that does impact a little bit of our underground disposal.
Yeah, I just want to get that on the public record. I did know the history behind that,
Yes,
but
sir.
I wanted everybody to understand that there was a little ambiguity and some misstatements made, especially about, and of course, now it's my turn to talk, so I'm going to build on it. That's why I called you up here, because we know that the school property over there at the elementary, but in the next, whether it's 3 years, 5 years, or 7 years, is going to be utilized by the Okaloosa County school system. What's going to be left, nobody knows yet. That's one of the things I think that motion that we passed was telling staff to do. Lockwood just let us know that Morgan's Fields are going to be there for 38 years. So I want to speak to that because the whole issue about the high school, and somebody did bring up the fact that it's an unincorporated Destin area, and I spoke with some of the school members, and I said that would be a really good place to start, take some pressure off the politics around here, is incorporate the land that city's high school, the Destin High School sits on, be incorporated into Destin. That puts a stamp on that one once and for all, so maybe that's something that their board of directors can look into. But more importantly, Morgan Sports Field was developed by our city for our city. And we've leased that land from Destin Waters users who are the owners. And their lease allows us to make improvements on that property. So I know Lockwood would like to participate in a discussion about building a high school eligible field on that piece of property, but it's not only feasible, it's doable. And so, in spite of some of the other comments, and I don't get the vote, I'm in favor of developing a high school field there for the Destin High School that will hopefully be in Destin here shortly. And because it just makes sense. And this is one of the times that you got to put certain things aside and says, what makes the most amount of sense? In government, sense escapes us sometimes, good common sense. So I just want to eradicate that. Not only that, but what you see here is a need, not just for a high school. You brought it up with the community center. The whole idea and concept of the Destin City Center of moving our city hall and moving it to that piece of property over there where Publix now owns, building a community center over there, makes more and more sense every time something like this comes up. Because if this annex wasn't here and that city hall wasn't here, we could build pickleball fields, tennis courts, and a baseball field brand new, not renovating a softball field. Some people think that's a big wish list, but let me tell you what, if you don't think big, if you don't try to have vision, you end up with what you got now. And we all agree, I think, that what we have now is not adequate. So that's one thing I want to encourage the council. I want to encourage the public. I want all those people that were in here earlier today to come back and share their thoughts with us, because what this particular item about the Destin High School just brings up to the forefront the idea of why we really do need to look at creating a city center, why we really do need to enhance Morgan Park. I've got grandsons and granddaughters in travel ball. I've been to all these fields. They're awesome. We probably can't get there, but we can take what we have and really make it a lot better. So we're in the budgetary process. And the last thing I want to talk about is we just hired a new code enforcement director, and highly qualified. And we got some really good people in our code enforcement. And this is something that's really more for the public than it is for any of the council or myself. Our code department has already gotten much better. They're going to even get better with the new leadership, new innovative ideas. But our code enforcement cannot catch everybody all the time. I live and breathe on that harbor every day, and I see illegal activity taking place every single day. Illegal charter boat operators, people picking up customers, upland landowners not using, illegally allowing these businesses that shouldn't be there to do it. I've talked with our code enforcement officers, invited them to be with me at 5 a.m., not 7:30, because everything happens from 5 a.m. to 6:30, and then it's all over with. That's the kind of stuff that we just have to work on, and the public's got to realize when you see the trash or parking over on Norrego Point, man, we're working on all that stuff. But we have X amount of people, and X amount of energy, and X amount of time, and we're trying to prioritize all that. Our code enforcement is going to get better. They've made a commitment. We got community development rewriting our LDCs and our codes. We're talking with our attorneys about putting some teeth in our ordinances so we can hold people accountable for what they do. So I just want to encourage everybody to encourage our code enforcement people to just keep working hard, keep doing it. And now that we had that discussion about when the public makes a complaint, it's not just lost in the breeze. People are going to act on it. There'll be electronic paper trail. You can find out what's done, but you got to understand we're not going to get them all. The police don't catch all the speeders. They don't catch all the criminals, and our code enforcement are not going to catch all the violators. It's just not going to happen, but we're going to try. Well, I'm working really hard, as a charter boat guy and as a fleet member, working with the livery guys. When people cheat, it hurts our businesses. It hurts Destin. It takes money away from our community, because our legal guys, they got BTRs. They're paying taxes. The illegal ones aren't. So that's my little rant for the day. Dewey, did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I just, as the maker of the motion about the Morgan and versus the elementary, I want to make it clear that I want staff to have the opportunity to bring back to us the options. What will it cost to do over there? What will it cost here? If we have to, we don't know what the costs are here, because we've got to maintain the ability for Destin water users to use that to dispose of effluent. If we don't, I think you will find in that contract there are some termination clauses. So those are all factors that we don't have tonight.
No, and Dewey, your motion was spot on. And you and Jim both always take a good conservative, broad thinking approach to everything. I'm a little bit more charter boat guy. I'm just always hammering straight ahead, damn the torpedoes, hopefully. I just wanted to make it clear that, in my opinion, and which is all it is, I don't get a vote, that doing something like that makes a lot of sense. And everything that was spoken at the podium that was put on the public record, most of those people not only were speaking for their heart, but they were saying the true things. It does make sense. It is a better place. It's going to be more efficient. And of course, your motion took their comments and you're trying to apply the broad base, let's dot our I's, cross our T's. So what I said was not disparaging to that motion whatsoever. I was just making my point is that I highly encourage us to think about not only improving Morgan Sports Center as it exists, but we really, and it's one of our priorities that made it through our visioning, is we really need to approach the city center idea with enthusiasm and focus. I may not get my ice rink in 3,500 square foot arena, but we ought to have a city hall and we need a community center, and that would allow some really good things to happen here, and we could upgrade our athletic centers to really enhance this community. Those pickleball people really want some courts. And they busted us the first day I was a mayor here and sworn in. They were here, and we still don't have the courts. And I'm almost done. So, pickleball friends, November 8th, when I'm no longer mayor, I'm going to get on the other side of the podium. We're going to get some pickleballs. All right? Kyle, you got anything?
But I think you skipped Ms.
Okay,
Cobb.
well, go ahead, Kim. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm not prolonging this meeting any further, but I can't say the same for Kyle.
Thanks. And I do have something, and I've told y'all individually, I think, but there are some issues that were raised with the Destin Fishing Fleet litigation, both cases this afternoon. So I'd like to call an executive session in Okaloosa County Court Cases number 219 CA 002599 and 2019 CA 000425 for advice concerning litigation on the case of Destin Fishing Fleet versus the City of Destin. The entire session is to be recorded by a certified court reporter, and people present will be council members Braden, Wagner, Destin, Bagby, Abear, King, Schmidt, Mayor Jarvis, City Attorney Kyle Baum, and Land Use Attorney Kimberly Kopp, and Insurance Defense Attorneys Bill Warner and Eric Krebs, and City Manager Lance Johnson. We're requesting the meeting be set for July 11, 2022 at 5:30 p.m., which would be 30 minutes preceding your next regularly scheduled meeting. And if you'd make that in the form of a motion, I'd appreciate it.
So moved. Kyle, is 30 minutes, I mean, you know what needs to be addressed. Is 30 minutes enough, or should we meet at 5?
I think 30 minutes will be enough. It's not a huge issue. We have two really
All right,
pretty
so we have a
small issues.
motion for an executive session to start at 5:30 on July 11th.
Second.
Now you have a second. So without any further ado, put it on your calendars, folks. The vote is unanimous, so moved. Remember, just state your name and your address. You have 3 minutes, and I'll cut you off like I did last time.
Sarah Stone, 375 Grassy Cove. Thank you, Johnny, for your comments. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Mayor. I feel the same way, and I know I speak for the board when I say we're thinking too small. When we went to build a school, people said, what about sports? They did not care about a school. They cared about sports before they cared about the school. And I said, it's a classic. If you build it, they will come, which ironically is a baseball movie that does not fall on deaf ears. We are just asking today for a baseball field, but in the long run, we're asking for more. We're asking for collaboration. We're asking for vision. We're asking you to think big for what we really need in this community, which is a true athletics complex. We have a beautiful facility right here in the center of Destin that is used for a few sports, but it could be improved. We could collaborate with you on a gymnasium on our campus. We could collaborate with you to improve the Destin United Methodist Gymnasium. I mean, there's so much opportunity, but we have to come together to make it happen for these kids. Don't get me wrong, I am all for buying land for beach accesses and spending millions of dollars to give our tourists beach accesses. But let me tell you, I am more concerned with the kids that live here and their families and their parents that have made this their community. And that is who we should be accommodating and spending millions of dollars on. We have not come here to ask you for millions of dollars. In fact, if you work with us, we will bring you millions of dollars to make it happen, because we have the parents that want this more than anything, and we can put together a private-public partnership where we actually give everyone what they've been asking for before the school. So I don't just ask, I beg you to please amend the motion to include, and I think you did, but I want to make sure that we are going to research putting one baseball field at Morgan Sports Complex. Destin Elementary, for many reasons and logistics, with elementary school kids is not ideal for what we need to be able to do this year. And then we can certainly sit down with you and our liaison, Ms. Abear, going forward for the master plan. But we need a master plan. I mean, and when we sat down with our architect and our builder, and we had 6 months from when we got our loan to buy that property, to renovate it, to be ready for those kids on August 1st, they said if it was in the city, there's no way we would have gotten it done. And that is because there's so much red tape. And the county worked with us. They got it done, and we have another building to build. We're building a 3-story education building, 26,000 square feet, 26 classrooms, so that we can house up to 1,000 students on that campus. We need to use every square inch for classrooms, because that is really, how we grow this community. So I know my time's up, but thank you.
Thank
for your
you,
time.
Sarah. Appreciate it.
Sarah,
See you on the 11th.
Real quick, Sarah, I think, you made a really good point, and I didn't mean to drag this on, but you make a really good point. The way that our funding works is was beyond my understanding before I came here, but like as far as what we're spending money on for the beach, that's one thing, and how all that works is TDC money.
Right.
Now, what you hit the nail on the head. This is like my number one thing sitting here, is that we put Destin locals first.
Right.
And especially Destin local kids. So.
And make it, I think I made it clear, but we're not asking you to pay for any of the improvements at Morgan Sports. We will fund that ourselves. We just want permission.
Thank you. Anyone else? Come on up. Don't be shy. Name, address, press button, light come on.
My name is Drew Palmer, 69 Indian Bayou Drive in Destin. I'm on the school board for Destin High School as well. And I want to tell you guys that I definitely appreciate all the work that you've done. Especially appreciate your candor. Definitely understand the difficulty with sunshine laws and really kind of not being able to discuss among yourselves. We deal with the same thing on the board as well, and so we definitely see a lot of that stuff. One of the things that I wanted to just kind of bring up is we need a partnership, as Sarah said. We need a partnership with you guys. We need to see you guys as good community partners with us. We have had a group of concerned citizens that have gotten together and pulled this thing together on short timelines with difficult circumstances. During a global pandemic, we opened the only charter school, I think, in the state last year. We have 300 students that are going there now. We're going to have 500 students that are going there next year, 1,000 students eventually. These are your locals. These are your constituents. I understand that tourism brings in tax dollars. I understand that there's lots of other stuff that generates sort of money and interest in this area. These are your locals. These are the ones that live here. And to say that, the high school itself not being in the city limits, that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, right? Because it's surrounded by the city. Nobody lives at the high school. The students go to the high school and then they go home where they live, which is in Destin. So that's one thing. And then also to, again, I feel like I'm complaining a little bit. I know that council member is not here, but to claim that this council built this school, we want you guys to be partners in the school. The length of your meeting tonight is the length of the meeting that we have every other week and have had for several years, every other week. And that's the work that brought this together. And I definitely want your partnership. I want your help. I want you guys to be a part of this with us. And I think that you can be. I think you can be powerful partners. But I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And Morgan Sports Complex is a way that we can start this. Thank you.
Appreciate it very much. Anyone else? Meeting adjourned.